Leon, my son, you've come so far. Growing up, danger lurked around every corner. A new start, a new home. But death can be hard. A fatherless boy with something to prove. Lost, not knowing where to turn. But light can be found in the darkest of places. Out of the streets and into the cage. A new focus, a new beginning. With every win you grow stronger. This is your time. This is your stage. Fighting for your family. For your island of birth. For the island you've made home. Fighting to be the best in the world.
It's a good promo, that, isn't it? I've lost count of how many times we've played that over the last 18 months. It's been unbelievable waiting for a Leon Edwards fight week, but we are finally here. 603 days later, he is back in the octagon this weekend to take on Belal Muhammad. How you doing? Welcome to the official weigh-in show for Edwards versus Muhammad. I'm Adam Cattrall. Nick Pete alongside me as ever. It's been a long old wait to see Rocky return, and he's here, mate. Finally, we're going to get to see him on the scale in a moment with his kicks off.
Absolutely. I almost said, I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to it. Then you almost brought me out. But yeah, it's been 18 months, 20 months. It just feels like forever. And the worst thing is, let's go back to March of last year when he was supposed to be main eventing at UFC London, which was going to be a huge moment for him. I think the prior UFC London, the year before that, he was actually booed on his way to the octagon. So there was a ton of Darren Till fans there. They had a big fallout in the build-up, if you remember. But this was a big moment for him. This was his moment to, get out of Darren Till's shadow, if you like, and really become a superstar for the UK fans, to get behind that fight with Tyron Woodley and everything else. And to lose out to that, it was the first event cancelled due to the global pandemic. To miss out on that opportunity and then go on to have the 18 or the 12 months of frustration that he did. Come on, he went up and down and he did everything. He experienced pretty much everything this sport's got to offer without even getting inside the octagon. It's been a crazy year, and I just can't wait to see him back doing what he does best.
Here's a mad stat for you on the amount of time that he's been outside the octagon. 603 days, as I mentioned a moment or two ago. Out of all the ranked fighters in the UFC, only Nina Ansaroff has been out for longer. She's been out having a baby. That is crackers. Wow. How long that fella has been out of the octagon.
It's crazy, and as you say, there was the moment with Tyron Woodley. Then in May, he got the opportunity, literally at the 11th hour, to fly to the US and potentially fight Kamaru Usman if they could get it going in Vegas. Then it was moved to Jacksonville. Leon was told he had to fly out within 3 hours' time. He was told that he may not be able to take his team with him. And this is a guy that spent his whole career getting to this mandatory or ranked number 3 position in the welterweight division, not because of his personality, not because he trash talked his way there, but because he's had to grind the hard way. And Leon himself and his team made the decision, you know what, we're not just going to jump at any opportunity. We've worked hard to get into this spot, and it's got to be the right position. And unfortunately, that meant him taking a bit of a back step. Then there was a lot of talk, of course, about will he take that fight? Will he not take this fight? Then we were on Fight Island when news broke that he'd been removed from the UFC rankings. And then within a couple of hours, it was all changed and he was agreed to face Khamzat Chimaev. And that fight, 1, 2, 3 times it fell off due to Khamzat, of course, getting COVID. So a lot of this stuff has been outside of Rocky's own control. And him more than anybody else, the sense of relief that goes over his shoulders, just weighing in today, never mind ring walking on Saturday, just weighing in today, he'll feel like finally that year's behind me.
It does feel like the American side of the business is getting well behind him. I've seen him pop up on a couple of TV channels this week, making documentaries about his life. We did a fantastic interview with him in London last year, talking about his upbringing in Jamaica, which is available on the BT Sport YouTube channel. Definitely go and check that out. I've lost count of how many interviews I've done with Rocky over the last 18 months in the build-up towards particular fights, but we are finally here. It's finally a Leon Edwards fight week, and he's taking on Belal Muhammad, who's ranked number 13 in the welterweight division. That's the full card there that you can see that's going to be going down in the early hours of Sunday morning on BT Sport. Make sure you come and join us. Just make a note of that time there. The main card this week gets underway at 1 a.m. with the prelims getting underway from 11 p.m. Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad, obviously the main event. Misha Serkinov, we'll talk about that in a moment or two. With a fantastic fight in the light heavyweight division, taking on Ryan Spann. At featherweight, you've got Dan Eager taking on a last-minute opponent in Gavin Tucker. That one looked like it was going to be off at one point with Dan Eager looking for an opponent, but Gavin Tucker put his hand up and stepped in last minute. Jonathan Martinez and Davey Grant are very on. An interesting fight there for Davey. Manuel Cap, who we saw lose his UFC debut, no mean feat against Pantoja, but he's back. Again, another last-minute fight taking on Matthias Nicolau. And then you've got Eric Anders against Britain's own Darren Stewart in what could be described as a bit of a crossroads fight for the dentist. But we'll get through all the narratives of the weekend's fights throughout the course of this. This is what we're focusing on, though, that welterweight main event between Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad. Nick, just on Leon Edwards' talent, because we've had a world champion from the UK, Michael Bisping, and we've had plenty of fantastic fighters come off our shores and make real inroads in the UFC. But as you look at the talent set that Leon Edwards actually possesses, is he the most well-rounded mixed martial artist that were produced?
He could well be. You know, he is absolutely sensational in every department, and more than that, he's getting better in every department as well. You know, his improvement rate over the last 4 to 5 fights has been incredible. You know, he's always had decent grappling, he's always had good takedown defense, and he's always been a sharp striker, but it's just the way he transitions between each fighting style now that's evolved so well. And his striking game, you know, it used to be very much like a point striking game, very familiar to European fans. Keep your distance, keep someone at range, and stuff those takedowns. But it's evolved so more now. He fights so well up against the cage. You know, he does that one thing which Americans always say about Brits and Europeans: get them in the clinch, you know, put them in fearful grappling situations and they panic. Well, Leon Edwards doesn't panic, far from it. He loves to be in the clinch. He fights really well in the clinch. He's great with those slashing elbows and knees and trips of his own. So, yeah, I think in terms of his development as a mixed martial artist, and it's kind of gone against him that he hasn't been a superstar. He hasn't been given this superstar status, as I say. You know, for someone who's got such a formidable record in the UFC, you know, he's not had a lot of main events and certainly not marquee main events. But what that's allowed him to do is it's allowed him to grow slightly out of the spotlight. It's allowed him just to get that work done. And as I say, that evolution of his stand-up game, that working with Tom Breese, you know, day after day in Birmingham on his ground game, I think he's really peaking now. And yes, you know, there's his loss in the UFC following his debut. The only loss in the UFC was against Kamaru Usman. He's come on so much more since that first fight. I think that's why not just the European fans and UK fans are screaming for the rematch now, but I think most fans around the world are accepting the fact that Leon Edwards is overdue a rematch with Kamaru Usman.
2016, that fight against Kamaru Usman, and he's been on a hell of a ride since. This, if he comes through, it will be his 9th consecutive win. And as you look at all-time welterweight wins, you've got Kamaru Usman, you've got Georges St. Pierre, and then you've got Leon Edwards when it comes to consecutive wins in this division. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Dana White has been speaking to our very own Caroline Pearce out in Las Vegas. They've caught up last week ahead of UFC 259. And one of the questions that Caroline threw Dana White's way was, what is going to happen to Leon Edwards if he comes through this fight? If he comes through in spectacular fashion against Belal Muhammad, albeit the number 13 ranked in the welterweight division, does that warrant a world title shot? And Dana's answer was quite simple, really. If he impresses, if he gives us something special, then yes, it will be a title shot for Leon Edwards. And I suppose this is the question that I'm throwing towards you, Nick, because I've seen the social media reaction to that. Does a win against the number 13 warrant a championship fight?
It doesn't matter. That's the number 13. You know, Leon was the guy that put his hands up and said, listen, Khamzat Chimaev, nobody wants to fight him at middleweight, never mind welterweight. UFC are hot on this guy. You think you're going to take me out the rankings? Give me Chimaev then. Give me the guy that everyone's terrified of. I'll make a statement and I'll let him know there's levels to this game. And he accepted that fight, and out of no control of his own, that fight has ultimately fallen off. Then Leon said, okay, Colby Covington, the guy who's currently ranked number 1, without a date, without an opponent scheduled, me and him will fight, get Colby Covington to come in. Colby Covington didn't want to touch Leon Edwards with a barge pole. So for me, if the number one guy doesn't want to fight you, the number two guy is still recovering from challenging for the title, still putting it back together. You've got the guy at the top, maybe potentially going into a tough season. Who else are you supposed to face? You know, if the UFC, the best the UFC can do is present Belal Muhammad, with all due respect to Belal Muhammad, that's not Leon Edwards' fault. Leon Edwards has got to take what fight is put in front of him. But why should he be held back? Because the guy ranked number one refuses to face Leon Edwards. That's a fact.
Of course, fans will know that it was supposed to be Khamzat Chimaev. It's fallen off 3 times due to various things. Leon Edwards himself had COVID, then Khamzat Chimaev tested positive for COVID, and he's now obviously had to pull out of this particular fight, which was scheduled for this date, because of lingering effects of COVID, and we wish him well in his recovery, and hopefully at some time in the future he'll be able to, of course, resume his career. But I look at it, Nick, that Belal Muhammad at this level of MMA is a far more proven fighter than Khamzat Chimaev. Fans will be watching this who were high on Khamzat, and we were most certainly some of those fans that were high on Khamzat, definitely. But Belal has proved it at this level on a more consistent basis than what Khamzat did. So therefore, I personally think that this replacement fight is actually more difficult than the original.
Yes, in a lot of ways. Obviously, Belal's been around the game a long time. We've just seen it with the statistics. You know, him and Leon have got exactly the same 18-3 record, I think it was. And Belal has got, you know, serious strengths. You can see it there, both 18-3. Similar age, been in the UFC a similar time. Leon's got a little bit of height and a little bit of reach advantage. But in this type of fight, I don't think that's going to, you know, be a huge difference in there because, as I say, Leon does kind of like getting a striking game off inside the clinch and up close now, which is obviously going to suit Belal as well. I think what you've got with Chimaev is that unknown star quality. Yes, he hasn't really fought anybody in the UFC, but the fact he's jumped between weight divisions and looked absolutely sensational and comes from one of the best gyms in Europe. And you know, you got the likes of Alexander Gustafsson saying, this guy's a future world champion. With all due respect, no one's that high on Belal. So I think for that reason, people know what to expect a little bit more in this fight. But I also think that's why Dana White made the comments that he did to Caroline when he said, you know, Caroline said, if he's sensational, does he get the next title shot? To which Dana said 100%. Not if he wins, if he's sensational. I think that's the big fear here. Neither Leon or Belal have got many finishes in the UFC. I think they've got a lot of wins, but I think combined, I think Leon's got 3 finishes and Belal's only got 2. So your safe money here is on a points decision. But I think Dana's just turned the volume up a little bit on Leon and said, listen, he has to look sensational. Otherwise, there is another fight after this. It may well be Chimaev. It may well be Colby Covington. It may well even be a Wonderboy Thompson or even another welterweight. What Leon's got to do is be sensational. He's got to stop Belal. He's got to take it away from the judges or at least get to the judges and it be so one-sided and so dominant that everyone comes away from this weekend saying, Leon Edwards has got to get the next shot. And if he gets a finish at him, I think he puts pressure on Kamaru Usman, on Jorge Masvidal, on the conversation right now about TUF, because there's a lot of rumours they're going to be the coaches on TUF this summer. Are the UFC going to be able to lock 18 guys into a house, into a training facility in Las Vegas during the current COVID lockdown? Are we best pushing that back another 6 months? If so, let's save Masvidal for that potential role and let's get Leon Edwards in now, because by the way, he looks sensational at the weekend. I think there's a big opportunity here for Leon to jump in and get this fight quickly.
We're about a minute away from the fighters hitting the scales. As you can see, they're just preparing everything for us over in Vegas. Just a quick one, Nick, on Belal Muhammad. What an opportunity for him. He stuck his hand up. He's dared to be great. And he could literally leap over about 10 fighters when the new UFC rankings hit us on Tuesday.
Absolutely. And that's what the sport's all about, isn't it? Take the opportunities when they come. You know, we've seen it in this division already. And Belal's a guy, as I say, he's been around the sport for a long time. He had to campaign to get into the UFC in the first place. He was messaging matchmakers and on a social media, crusade to get signed by the UFC in the first place. So he knows what it takes. And again, similar to Leon, he isn't the most attractive fighter in the world. He's a grinder. He's a guy that can be formidable, but not necessarily a finisher. So he knows he's got to sing from the rooftops. He knows he's got to bang the drum, and that's what he's done. He's got himself an opportunity, and he could jump into number 3 in the world.
You can see there's a little bit of action in Las Vegas. It's 5 o'clock UK, which means we are ready to rock and roll for the fighters hitting the scales. And hopefully we can turn in a little bit of a crank up here and get a little bit of a bit of atmosphere from the Apex in Las Vegas.
Official weight 145.5 for Marcelo Rojo.
Marcelo Rojo, it's actually his UFC debut, this kid, at the weekend. He has been on an unbelievable tear coming into the UFC. He's taking on Charles Jourdain on the prelims. I think he might have his work cut out against Charles Jourdain, but Marcelo Rojo has a lot of hype and a lot of excitement coming in.
Yeah, he's a natural bantamweight, Adam, and this fight's up a featherweight. Obviously, he's taken it at late notice. But as you say, I looked at his record. I don't think Rojo's ever been to the judges from what I can see. No. He is a finisher, but can he finish up a featherweight? And coming in at late notice against a tough guy like Jourdain, it's a good fight.
This fight I'm extremely excited about. We just heard Mateus Nicolau. There we go. He's coming up to the scales now. Mateus Nicolau weighing in for his flyweight contest against Manel Kape. Manel Kape is a guy that I've been high on for quite some time. Obviously, the former Rising champion. So let's get his weight first of all. There you go. On the money. Beautiful stuff. But his he was originally cut, was Nicolau, wasn't he, in 2018, and now he's back in the UFC, but he's taking on Kape, and Kape is a guy that I'm extremely high on, and we shouldn't judge him off his first performance against Pantoja, because Pantoja is a legit flyweight. It's going to be a cracking fight, that.
Yeah. Nicolau, incidentally, was cut after a 3-1 run in the UFC at bantamweight. Went away, 3-1, only lost one fight, but went away, won 2 outside the octagon. Trains at Jackson Wink now, and now he's back as a flyweight. So he was 3-1 as a bantam. Now he's back as a flyweight on the back of 2 wins outside the UFC. So don't sleep on Nicolau, and Manel Kape's going to find out there's no soft touches in this UFC flyweight division.
Cracking fight this between Misha Serkinov and Ryan Spann. 2 grapplers going at it. And when grapplers look at the shape on this fella here. It looks like you on the beach, Nick. When 2 grapplers normally get at it, they very rarely actually grapple. It normally turns into a kickboxing contest, doesn't it?
5 pounds for Misha Serkinov.
Looking mint, looking really good.
You know,
he's been out a long time though, hasn't he?
He has been out a long time, Serkinov, and you know he was hotly tipped at one point to go on a real run in this light heavyweight division and one day challenge for the 205-pound honours. But then a couple of losses go his way and things can change. And likewise, his opponent. Ryan Spann, he was in the Dana White's Contender Series, and everyone was tipping him to be the next superstar. And he actually lost on Dana White's Contender Series, and that kind of slowed his progress a little bit too.
Brilliant tattoo, this. Matthew Semmelwersberger. This guy has got bricks for fists. I can't see this fight going the full distance. I'm giving it a little bit of attempt to fate there, but he's taking on Jason Witt. Jason Witt lost his last fight in 48 seconds, but don't judge that.
Official weight
These boys bang.
For Matthew.
Hopefully we can get the sound sorted out there so we can get the official weigh-ins.
Selmersberger cut all his hair off. Where's that mullet gone? Again, tough guy, 7-2 record. I think his name is Semi-Jedi. He actually looks like Alisson Becker, the Liverpool goalie. I can't believe he's cut all his hair off.
It's only taking you 2 minutes to make some type of Liverpool Football Club reference. What are you doing now, eh? Keep it out of that. You lot aren't performing this year. We're only here for elite sport on this UFC card, all right? None of that Liverpool nonsense.
Yeah. Let's not talk Champions
Ray Rodriguez. Ray Rodriguez is about to weigh in. He's taking on Rani Yaha. Yaha, of course, everybody knows Rani Yaha. 19 years of professional, taking on Ray Rodriguez, who hasn't won in the UFC as of yet. Opportunity for him at the weekend to get a veteran on his record.
Official weight 135.5 for Ray Rodriguez.
That'll be a relief for Rodriguez. He's usually fighting at the weight above. He's a natural featherweight. Got knocked out by Brian Kelleher on his debut last year, but has been around the sport for a long time. 16-7 record out of Brazil top team, but Compared to this guy, Ronnie Yahya, he's a baby. Yahya made his MMA debut in 2002. 19 years competitive in mixed martial arts, been in the UFC forever, was one of the old boys that came over from WEC, literally fought everybody in and around this bantamweight division, Yahya, and he's no soft touch for anyone, as his 26-10 record suggests.
Thirsty for a win, though, isn't he? He hasn't had one for about 3 years. I think it's 2018 in his last victory. But back in the day, he was taking necks and cashing checks. I fancy him for a sub here, you know. I fancy him for a submission in this fight.
Official weight 136 pounds for
he's won a bunch of ADCC gold medals. I think he's a 2-time Brazil national jiu-jitsu gold medalist as well back in the day. Obviously a lot more focus on MMA in the last 2 decades, but this is a guy that there's a reason why he's still in the UFC, and after all these years, and that's because unless you're one of the best guys in the world, one of the ranked guys in the world, you ain't getting past. You certainly ain't getting a soft touch with Ronnie Yahya, and I think Ray Rodriguez is going to find that out as well.
Bit of pause. What's going on here? 6 minutes in, and we're having a bit of a pause. Maybe it's a good buffet this week at the Apex. Who knows, eh? Maybe they've had a little bit of a fill yesterday. Normally they're rattling through. Normally we're only waiting for
our main event,
waiting
the
for a
13th
couple.
ranked welterweight Belal Muhammad.
There you go.
Oh,
Spot too soon. Belal Muhammad, obviously the replacement opponent. It was supposed to be Khamzat Chimaev, number 13 ranked in the welterweight division. He's on a 4-fight win streak at the moment, is Belal. Wonderful opportunity for him to take on Leon Edwards, who's ranked number 3. He wins this in any way, shape or form. When those rankings come out on Tuesday, he will most certainly be in single figures. It'll be interesting to see how highly up the rankings chart he goes. Wonderful character, fantastic backstory. Let's see where he's at weight-wise.
Official
championship weight.
70 pounds for Belal Muhammad.
That's what I like to see, Belal. You know what I mean? If you're going to get an opportunity like this, let's make a statement on the scales. Let's show people what we're all about and the direction that we're going in. I commend that. Well done, mate. Super stuff.
Yeah. Makes championship weight. Just let everybody know he's all business.
Third ranked,
he last fought a month ago,
Edwards.
so he's obviously in great shape, and he knows himself. He's been waiting forever for an opportunity like this, and I think any question marks about whether he can go 5 rounds, he's never done it before. From a British perspective, hopefully we don't find out. But every time I've watched Belal, I've never seen him struggle to do 3 rounds, so I don't think he'll have an issue.
Here's our boy. 602 days since he last weighed in.
Official weight 170 and a half for Leon Edwards.
I thought he was going to go for championship weight, but not needed. Not needed. 170 and a half, it's done. The main event is on. Leon Edwards, it's 170 and a half. Belal Muhammad hits 170. It'll be 603 days since we've last seen Leon Edwards inside the octagon. Absolutely sensational. Great. Both of them looking in fantastic shape, and I'm sure that they're going to provide us with a top-class fight. Don't forget the main card gets underway from 1 a.m. on BT Sport. Make sure you come and join us for it. On the prelims, which get underway at 11, JJ Aldrich is going to be back in action, taking on Courtney Casey. JJ just about to hit the scales. She's the queen of the split decisions, is JJ Aldrich. So therefore, whenever I see her name on a card, Nick, I know that it's going to be entertainment. It's going to be back and forth. There's going to be something in this for the fans.
Yeah, she's always game, isn't she? She kind of floats between strawweight and flyweight like a lot of these girls do. Got solid base.
Official weight 125 and a half for JJ Aldrich.
Yeah. No issue for her making flyweight. As I say, she's used to even making strawweight, but 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo, been competing in martial arts her entire life, and she's almost become a little bit mandatory in the UFC these days, but
Next
it gets
to
to
the
a point
scale,
where
Eric Ander.
you need to make a breakthrough and put a run together, and this is a big opportunity for her to start that in 2021.
Interesting fight in the middleweight division. This kicks off the main card from 1 a.m. Eric Anders taking on our very own The Dentist, Darren Stewart in the middleweight division. Anders is coming off a loss to Christoph Joko, a man that you know very well, Nick. And obviously, Darren's recent run, he's one of those that does well for a period of time and then just hits a bump in the road. It feels like a bit of a crossroads fight, this one.
They're so well matched, you know. From matchmaker's perspective, this is easy.
Official weight 186 pounds for Eric Anders.
Yeah.
Shape on him.
Listen, it's an easy fight to make. They both look great. Eric Anders is a career athlete. You know, he was an ex-Alabama State University linebacker, got signed by the Cleveland Browns in the NFL. That career didn't work out for him and he transitioned over to mixed martial arts. Similar to Darren, was undefeated, getting into the UFC, 10-0 in his career, but is now 13-5. So he's had a bit of a 3-5 negative run in the UFC, similar to Darren. That step up is difficult. That step up to UFC level, no matter if you've been cleaning house outside of the UFC, you know, the competitive nature of this middleweight division and the quality that's in there, it's tough to climb, man. And both these guys are jostling to trying to get into the top 15.
GU Fry just about to weigh in for a fight with Gloria De Paula, former Invicta atomweight champion, yet to win in the UFC.
No.
Official weight 115.5 for Jin Yu Fry.
She is the perfect example, Adam, of why the UFC should scrap the women's featherweight division and bring in the women's atomweight division. She is a brilliant fighter, as you say, champion outside in Invicta. It's a popular decision in weight division in Invicta. But she's had to come into the UFC, move up a weight class, and she's 0 for 2. Such a shame. And she's got a master's degree, believe it or not, in nuclear medicine. Wow. Intelligent girl.
Brains as well as brawn. Dan Ige, a man that he seemed pretty emotional at one point this week when he didn't know whether he was fighting. But Gavin Tucker put his hand up and he says, yeah, go on then, we'll have a knock at featherweight.
Official weight 145.5 for Dan.
Always
Ige.
in great fights. I know he came up short against Calvin Kattar and he got the decision against Edson Barboza, but both of those fights, his last couple, have been absolutely mustard. You know that he's going to bring it. And Gavin Tucker does exactly the same thing. A hot prospect coming through.
Yeah, man, this is going to have flames written all over it. Potential fight of the night for me. And as you say, that loss to Calvin Kattar knocked him back a little bit his first main event, but don't get away from the fact that he did beat Edson Barboza in a striking match. And he did beat my boy Mirsad Bektic as well. 2 big wins for him. Eagle want to bounce back here in style and took us the perfect opponent.
Charles Jourdain, who is currently on the scales, his opponent Marcelo Rojo, weighed in a little earlier on. He's on the money. This is my tip for the best fight on the prelims. You've got Rojo, who's making his UFC debut, who's never been the distance, never needed the judges. And then you've got Charles Jourdain, who's an absolute banger. I know he's lost his last 2, but he'll have a bit of a point to prove against the UFC new boy. Could be an absolute cracker, that one.
Yeah, even Jourdain, man, he's got power. He's got heavy hands. I remember he dropped Andre Feely. Okay, he lost the split decision there, but woohoo! That was some shot he dropped him with. And I think you're right. I think Jourdain and Rojo is it's going to be a fun one, put it that way.
Here he is, the dentist.
Here's the dentist.
Eric.
This guy's name is Darren Stewart, Adam, and he's from London, England. He fights in the middleweight division.
Stop it now. The reason why Nicholas is doing this and taking the mick is that I named a lot of British fighters recently who I'm extremely excited about in the UFC. When I say recently, it's probably about 2 years ago this now. And I forgot to put Darren's name on it. Darren then got in contact with me and called me out. And then we've had a back and forth. A fun back and forth since. So here we go.
Official weight 185.5 for Darren Stewart.
I'll tell you something, if there was a competition for the best looking fight, Eric Anders and Darren Stewart most certainly might qualify with the shape of these two fellas. They're looking incredible knock, don't they? He's got an interesting story, Darren, because when he burst onto the scene in the UFC, I know he was coming to the UFC, but he lost his first 3. Lost 3 on the spin. And I know that he's put,
Angela Hill.
I know that he's put a nice little run together since, winning 5 of his next 8. But I'll tell you something, when you lose your first 3, you're lucky to still be there. He's done well to turn it round.
He has turned it round, you know, and as I say, similar to Anders, 7-0 coming into the UFC, Stewart, 5-6-1 in the UFC. It's tough, this middleweight division, man. Listen, we know he's got power. That power comes from believe it or not, a background in contemporary dance. He's a salsa champion, Darren Stewart. Did you know that? He trained ballet. He trained in, all styles of dancing. And he's also, or he was for a long time, a prison officer at the courts at London Bridge.
Everybody's favourite. Never turns down a fight. Fights every week, this girl. Can't get enough of it. Angela Hill. Number 12 in the strawweight division.
Yeah, rematch this.
Official weight 115.5 for Angela Hill.
It is a rematch, which obviously Angela won the first time round. I don't see what the benefit is for Angela at this particular point, if I'm honest, taking on Yoda. I see a lot of benefit for Yoda, and I think both of them have most certainly developed their games since that first fight a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that best Angela Hill story was one of the best stories that I've heard in the last 12 months. Her grandparents, Barney and Betty, were part of an alien abduction story from 1961, the most famous alien abduction story in America at the time. So what a crazy background that is.
Is the former rising champion.
Official weight 125.5 for Manel Kopp.
Here he is. Lost his debut against Pantoja, but don't judge him on that. The guy's mustard. He's got a great fight this weekend against Mateus Nicolau. Really good in a division that a lot of people are starting to get excited about once again, that flyweight division. Davison Figueiredo breathing a lot of new life in there. He's got a fight coming up, obviously, with Brandon Moreno, but there'll be a lot of guys just behind him, and I include Manel Kape and Mateus Nicolau in this conversation where they're looking to put a performance on to catch the eye of the matchmakers to hopefully put them in with a shot of UFC gold in the not-too-distant future. Yeah,
Kape was a superstar outside of the UFC. He really was a main event star over in Japan, and he came in with a lot of momentum, which is why, if you remember, he started in the UFC as backup for the flyweight title fight. That didn't come off for him. He ended up fighting Pantoja, but then lost. That was in February. There's a little bit of pressure on him now because at times he looked good against Pantoja, but his output was minimum. He tried to steal rounds with single punches, and then I think it was the third round, he took Pantoja's back and did absolutely nothing. This key word, effective striking, effective grappling, holding onto someone's back like a backpack, but not actually advancing position is not how you win fights. That doesn't impress the judges. So there's a little bit of pressure on Kape here to kind of live up to that reputation that he's got and look good inside the UFC.
If you're just joining us on the BT Sport YouTube channel, it is the official weigh-in for Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. Both of those gentlemen have weighed in. The main event is signed, sealed, and delivered. The number 3 will take on the number 13 in the welterweight division. Leon Rocky Edwards hitting 170.5, with Belal Muhammad hitting championship weight at 170 a few moments ago. So fair play to them. We're still waiting for Ryan Spann, who is one half of the co-main event. Gavin Tucker, who came in last minute. He might have a bit of a struggle, Gavin, but I'm sure he'll do his best to hit the featherweight limit, taking on Dan Ige. Remember, he took that on 7 days' notice. You've also got Jonathan Martinez and Davy Grant, Britain's own Davy Grant, still to weigh in from the main card. Everybody else on that main card has come through, including Darren Stewart, who you saw a moment or two ago taking on Eric Anders. And there's quite a few on the prelims as well still to come through. Top of the prelims, as we've just seen Angela Hill, still waiting for Ashley Yoder to complete that fight. You can get involved with the show. It's a fully interactive program. As you can see, some of the tweets are coming through. If you've got any questions, if you've got any discussion points that you want us to get involved with, you are more than welcome to tweet them in there. Just make sure you at the BT Sport UFC Twitter account or the Instagram account, and we'll get them up on the screen so we can have a little bit of a crack. I can see lots of compliments and lots of thoughts on Leon Edwards as a mixed martial artist from fans currently watching this feed. Which I'm just going to go off piece then, whilst we've got a little bit of a break in the action, because the news came out yesterday that one of our other UK mixed martial artists is back in action on April the 10th. Nick Pete's long lost brother Darren Till is going to be he's going to be back in action for the Battle of Europe. It's against Marvin Vettori. It's a fantastic fight. We talked last week about the rhetoric around Darren Till in the middleweight division and Israel Adesanya. But the good news for British fight fans is that you don't have to set your alarm for the early hours of the morning. Oh, no. They're looking after us. Prelims are going to get underway at 5 p.m. Main card gets underway at 8 p.m. Check that out. Till's going to have a little bit of a knock in the middle of the afternoon over in Las Vegas just to keep us all entertained, pal.
I think it's brilliant, obviously brilliant for the European fan base, because it's a battle of Europe, isn't it? It's a case of let's find out who the best middleweight in Europe is. And not only that, for those guys, it's who really jumps into a very, very strong position in terms of taking on the returning Israel Adesanya. Adesanya's already made it clear he is not interested in facing either Paulo Costa or Robert Whittaker. The guy's in number 1 and number 2 position at the moment. The guy's supposedly fighting in some kind of eliminator. He said, I'm not interested whatsoever, because I beat both of them convincingly. Those guys need to go on a little bit of a run. What I am interested in is the fighting style and the attraction that is Darren Till. He knows that will be a big event globally. And he's also interested in a potential rematch there as well, because the first fight he had with Vettori went to a split decision. So I think both Till and Vettori in a wonderful, wonderful spot here, that if one of them, similar to Leon Edwards, if one of them looks sensational, they could well backdoor themselves a title shot.
I think that's the key word, isn't it? And we're saying that a lot this weekend about Leon Edwards. Sensational is the word. You've got to look good. It's not about just winning the fight. It's not about just getting through a fight and having your hand raised at the end. I think you've got to do something in order to capture the imagination, not only of Israel Adesanya or Dana White and the matchmakers, but of the fans as well. I think, don't get me wrong, there's a big fan base out there for Darren Till. There's a big fan base out there for Vettori as well. Both have got sensational personalities, and they most certainly cross over with the MMA community. I think there'll be a lot of fans on Vettori's side, a lot of fans on Till's side going into this fight. But for both of these men coming into it, they've got to do something which captures the imagination. They've got to create that viral moment, haven't they? They've got to kind of rubber stamp the shot at a world title. From Vettori's point of view, he's on a better run at the moment than Darren Till. Darren Till, if he wins this, it'll be one consecutive win. It'll be a good consecutive win. Don't get me wrong, but it'll only be one. Will that be enough, do you think, to warrant a shot at the title?
That he's in, and even though he's lost some of those fights, they're all big fights. Every fight he's been in recently seems to have been a huge event, or it's been on a huge event if it hasn't been the main event. And Darren UFC wants and is looking for, and that's the ability to sell pay-per-views, the ability to be a marquee superstar. The other thing as well, I think technically, what you'll find with Darren Till is, speak to any coach and any other fighter about Darren Till. Yes, listen, he comes under criticism from fans now. People saying, see one of the tweets there, someone actually labelled him as gun shy, and people saying he doesn't get enough finishes anymore. But if you listen to any coaches or any fighters talk about Darren Till, they see what he does and they appreciate him a lot more. And I include Eugene Berman and Israel Adesanya in that assessment. They get so excited when they talk about Till and what Till brings to the table. Look at Robert Whittaker in the aftermath of the last fight. He said, that's one of the most technical fights I've ever had in my life. I couldn't stop thinking. For 25 seconds, I had to be absolutely switched on, because Till does things in a certain way, and the way they broke it down. So I think he is a little bit undervalued maybe in the eyes of a lot of fans. But you're right, man. He needs to look sensational. He needs to make a statement. And the same thing goes for Vettori.
Now, if you don't come to the UFC that often, I'd just like to point out this is not Kelvin Gastelum, all right? It's his lookalike. Both of them are near enough spitting image of each other. Nasrat Haqparast, who's been actually doing a little bit of work recently with our very own Molly McCann. Molly, while she was out in Las Vegas, was catching up with Nasrat and doing a bit of work down at the PI. He's got a fight this weekend against Rafa Garcia in the lightweight division. He's only 25 years of age, is Nasrat, and I remember him coming into the UFC with a lot of hype around him, a lot of people bigging him right up, and his career seems to have stalled a little bit since he got starched by Drew Dober. I know he's had wins since, but it just seems to have stalled just a touch, and he needs to really get back on the train that we were all so much a part of a couple of years back. Bit of trouble here.
Is he missed weight? Didn't quite hear the audio then. I think he may have missed weight. No good taking your mask off. I think you're going to get the towel.
Yeah, towel job. Again, just in case you are just joining us on the BT Sport YouTube channel for the official weigh-in. There is a little bit of technical problem from the Apex with the feeds. It's dipped out a couple of times during the broadcast, so therefore we might have a little problem with the sound. I'll shut up, so hopefully we can hear everything.
Official weight 156 pounds for Nasrat Haqparast.
Heavy pair of kecks, them, Nick. Heavy pair of kecks and a heavy mask as well. Got to get them off. Get down to your scruds, son. He's made it 156, taking on Rafa Garcia in a fight this weekend. Garcia, by the way, it will be his UFC debut. Slick grappler from Mexico. And he's undefeated as well coming into this. So therefore, he'll fancy his chances given how Haqparast has been recently. Very hit and miss.
Yeah, I think Haqparast, as you say, a lot of momentum coming into the UFC. Raised in Germany, but obviously trains out of TriStar in Montreal, now in Canada. 4-1 in the UFC after losing his debut. He's gone 4-1 since, as you say. That loss to Drew Dober was a bit of a setback, but let's be honest, Drew Dober's been on an incredible tear up until the other week.
Gavin
so
Tucker.
No shame in there. And he did get caught cold in the first round by Drew Dober as well. So he is still rehabbing himself, if you like, in front of our eyes. But certainly a prospect that can push on and get into the rankings.
Big fan of this Canadian. Our friends over at TSN are very, very high on him, and they speak about him very, very highly. He's taken this fight last minute notice. Be interested to see where he's at weight wise, because this is like a 7-day turnaround for him. It's a featherweight contest. Beautiful from Gavin Tucker. That is absolutely outstanding.
For Gavin Tucker.
That's staying ready so you don't have to get ready. He hasn't been beaten since 2017. Billy Quarantillo was the guy that beat him last time out, who's no mean feat. That's a proper fight as well. And he's taking on Dan Ige. That could have a little bit of a bonus attached to it this weekend. Wonderful fight.
Yeah, Quarantino's a tough dude as well. That's a good win on anyone's ledger. Not only lost on his record that he's got was against Rick Glenn back in 2017. And we all remember that one. That was absolutely beaten. He took that night. Took 2 years out of him. In fact, he had to take 2 years out of the UFC. But as you say, massive prospect in Canada, a tough southpaw. And I fancy his chances against Dan Ige. I really do.
Here's David.
The Northeast zone.
Official weight 135.5 for Davey Grant.
There you go. Easier. Jonathan Martinez is the guy that he's up against. Martinez last time out weighed in at 140.5. So it'd be interesting to see if he's got himself together. Got a lot of power as Martinez. Davey Grant, 35 years of age now. Advantages, Nick, on the deck in this fight. He's got to try in some way, shape or form, get this to the mat, hasn't he?
Yeah, and that's what he does. And he does.
Next to the
Does well 2-0 run in the
Garcia.
UFC. The problem with Davey Grant is we should be super excited about him, but he only fights once a year. I'd love to see him come out of Bishop Auckland, come out of that Northeast top team setup that he's got up there. I'd love to see him a little bit more active in the UFC.
Here's the Mexican debutant taking on Nasrat Haqparast. Rafa Garcia. 156.
Official weight 156 pounds for Rafa Garcia.
There you go. Currently undefeated. First one in the UFC. He's got a proper test on his hands against the 25-year-old Haqparast tomorrow night.
Yeah, he's busy though, Garcia. You know, he's the Combat Americas champion. He's retained that belt a couple of times as well. You know, people in Mexico think this debut's a little bit overdue for him. And like everybody, you know, anyone who's knocking on the door of the UFC right now, no matter where you are in the world, you should make sure that your medicals are of a UFC standard just in case the phone call comes. And you better believe Garcia's been training with one eye on this flood of events over in Las Vegas at the Apex, knowing full well that he's available to jump in if opportunity arises. And obviously opportunity arises here. Don Madge pulled out of the fight. Garcia slipped in. 12-0 undefeated. He will absolutely come out flying at Haqparast. Could be the star of the show of the prelims.
If you're just joining us on the BT Sport YouTube channel, Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad have both weighed in, the number 3 and number 13, respectively, in the welterweight division, on point. Leon hitting 170.5 with Belal Muhammad going for championship weight, weighing in at 170. So the main event is on. We're just waiting for Ryan Spann from the co-main event and Jonathan Martinez to complete the main card. Quite a lot have come through the prelims as well. Still waiting for Ashley Yoder, Courtney Casey and Gloria DePaulo, as well as Jason Whip. Just noticed that at the bottom there. So we're waiting for about 5 fighters. Won't keep you waiting all the way through this. We'll just keep the topics rolling, keep the conversation going. If you want to come and join us, you are more than welcome to do so. Just get stuck over all of our social media feeds, whether that be Twitter or Instagram. Point your questions, point your talking points towards that, and the boys will whap it up on the screen so we can get stuck in. A lot of people excited about the Eric Anders and Darren Stewart fight, aren't we all? That is going to be ridiculous. Should be an absolute cracker to kick off the main card, which gets underway at 1 a.m. in the early hours of Sunday morning. Don't forget the prelims get underway at 11. Another announcement that came through this week, and I want to talk to you about the narrative of this division of where things are going to go. We're all high on Weili Zhang. We're all high on Rose Namajunas. Brilliant matchmaking this from the UFC. Let's stick them together and see what they do to each other, shall we? So the strawweight title will be on the line on April 24th. Interesting, because I'm being told that will be the main event for that card. On the undercard, you've got Shevchenko taking on Andrade, which is traditionally the higher weight class, so therefore that would normally go above it. But that just goes to prove how high Dana and the gang are at with maybe Weili and Rose Namajunas as a fight.
Yeah, I think Valentina, maybe not as convincing as Nunes last week, but she will start as a big favourite in that fight, in my opinion. Whereas that alternative main event with Weili and Rose, I'm a huge Rose Namajunas fan. I think she's the best strawweight on the planet, and I think she's going to prove it again against Weili. But if we get anything like Weili versus Joanna and Jacek, then that is exactly why it's the main event, because we've got a potential fight of the year on our hands. And we all know what Rose did twice to Joanna. So that's why it's the main event. The UFC are expecting a fight of the year contender for sure.
Not for the faint-hearted. He's definitely going to come with a viewer's discretion warning, no doubt, from the lovely people at BT Sport. Now, where do you think the narrative is going here? Because when you put Weili and Rose on the same card as Valentina and Andrade, you kind of look at that and go, well, okay, maybe they're looking to pit those two together. In an ideal world, are we going to go Shevchenko? Is Weili going to go up and challenge to become a champ, maybe do that in Asia? Is that the narrative? Or do you see the UFC just pumping the brakes on that for a second and maybe looking to see what happens in the Xiaonan Esparza fight in May? Because there's a potential there for a Chinese super fight in the not too distant future.
Yep. Exactly that. How good will Weili look? How good will Yao Lin look? You've got to balance it out. If Weili is utterly destructive against Rose, then I'm sorry, she's beat Joanna, she's beat Rose. It's time to start looking up and making her great. But let's not come away from the fact that an all-China super fight for that world title belt back in China towards the end of the year would be absolutely stratospheric. We know now, of course, the Shanghai PI is fully up and running, operational. I think they're in their second year of doing a combine, of bringing in athletes from all over Asia to train there full time. They're in their second year of that now. And that's going to really start producing a conveyor belt of UFC contenders across the men's and women's weight divisions in years to come. So you better believe that the UFC are heavily invested in that Chinese market. And to be able to do an all-China world title fight with women as well, come on. That prints its own money, doesn't it? What an occasion that would be.
I've just seen one of our recent polls go up on our screen there, which is doing the rounds on our social media, where the fans are voting on who they believe will come through that fight between Zhang and Rose. And if I'm not mistaken, if my eyes weren't deceiving me for that main event that is taking place on April 24th, they're going 60% and still with Rose Namajunas coming in at a 40%. Listen, it's close. It's a close fight. I personally would go along with what the fans are saying there. I'm with Zhang. I think Zhang is a supreme mixed martial artist, and I think that just because of the size and the power that she possesses, as well as the technicalities, I think she will come through that fight. But Rose Namajunas has proved me wrong on several occasions before. She was absolutely mustard on a couple of occasions against Joanna, and her last performance, the striking performance that she dished out, was just poetic at times. You're right, Nick. It is an unbelievable fight, and I just hope by the time we get to this on April 24th, there is a smattering of fans in the arena, because it most certainly deserves it.
It does deserve it. It's a cracking main event. And, as you know, I'm huge on Rose. I think she, had a wonderful campaign as champion first time
We're 50-50. You're one and the other, are they? Is that
Brilliant.
how you're doing it?
Well, I was just trying to jump off then to vote on Twitter myself to try and push Rose's numbers up, because I'm not having that. I'm not having it. I think Rose Namajunas, for me, starts as favourite. That's it. That's what I'm going to say. She's going to start as favourite. I think she'll be the champion once again.
Listen, she's a supreme mixed martial artist, a lovely character as well, bags of personality, as is Zhang Weili. It's going to be a hell of a fight on April 24th. And let's quickly just talk about that co-main event, I suppose we're classing it as now, the other title fight that's on there between Valentina Shevchenko and Jessica Andrade. Shevchenko, when it comes to talking about well-rounded female mixed martial artists, we had a cracker last week show off her skills, didn't we, in Amanda Nunes. What does Shevchenko rate for you, pound for pound?
Oof, you can't ask me that the week after Amanda Nunes does an absolute number on somebody, because, I talk about Rose Namajunas being my girl, but as you know, I am absolutely massive Shevchenko fan, and I'd love to see Shevchenko actually go the other way and go back to bantamweight and have that third fight with Amanda Nunes. I think that's probably the only fight for Amanda Nunes that currently makes sense inside the UFC in terms of challenges. I think the first fight was very much Nunes. Second fight, I thought Shevchenko was unlucky to lose on a split. So I would love to see that down the line. But there's absolutely no reason for Shevchenko to jump back up there if Weili was to come up, if that narrative plays out. That's kind of a super fight for her. But for me, she's head and shoulders above the rest of the girls in this flyweight division. Andrade's on a good tear right now. She absolutely deserves her title shot. But Shevchenko is technically, for me right now, when you put all the components together, I think pound for pound, yes, I think she is the best female fighter on the planet right now, even though Amanda Nunes has got the honours that would signify something different. Technically, Shevchenko's a better fighter. That's what I'm going to say.
It's so hard, isn't it? Like you say, coming off the back of a fantastic weekend for Amanda Nunes, who was, let's be honest, taking the mick. She finished Megan Anderson with 2 submissions at the same time. That's how good it was. It was a sensational, sensational performance. And it's very hard to then not say that she is the best female fighter on the planet right now, when we're then obviously bringing another sensational female fighter. I've no doubt with recency bias after April 24th, if Valentina Shevchenko does something sensational against Jessica Andrade, the pendulum will switch, should I say, towards Valentina, and that conversation about a third fight between the two of them will most certainly stoke up a little bit of a fire. It's good to see, actually, with Juliana Pena as well, chirping up this week, shouting for a Nunes fight and starting to get a bit aggressive with some of her smack talk. I'm starting to really enjoy a lot of the narratives that are starting to play out in all these divisions. One interesting one, I suppose, is going to be what the UFC do with featherweight, because we've seen this week that the fight last weekend was the last one on the contract of Megan Anderson. She is now obviously testing out a bit of free agency, speaking to other franchises of where she goes next with her mixed martial arts career. Listen, you can't blame her. She got to the top. She challenged for the belt, and she came up short against the best on the planet. It will be interesting to see where the UFC go with featherweight, because it doesn't look for now that there's any girls out there that can challenge Amanda.
No, and as I said earlier, there's a real solid base of atomweight female fighters currently competing outside of the UFC who would love to compete inside the UFC if they introduced that weight class and got rid of featherweight. I think that's the only way they would do it. Let's not get away from the fact that the UFC brought in the featherweight division really to bring in Chris Cyborg because she was such a superstar that we wanted to see her inside the UFC. Ultimately, Amanda Nunes completely smashed it to bits and pretty much put that featherweight division, locked it down. And for now, I'd like to see that featherweight belt go up on Amanda Nunes' wall or on the wall at ATT and stay there, because there just isn't the strength and depth in that weight division. But again, atomweight, why not? Let's bring in a tough season like we did with the strawweights. Let's bring in a tough season of female atomweights and let's see what those girls can do. And let's add another belt in another weight division and potentially crown a fresh new champion.
Big stat there from Prodigy MMA. Thank you very much for getting involved with the show. Misha Serkinov has not had a fight leave the first round since 2016. Granted, he hasn't fought for 18 months. Big fight this weekend against Ryan Spann. We're still waiting for Ryan Spann to weigh in, by the way. They're number 13th ranked light heavyweight. And last time out, I remember watching this fight with you. I think we might even have been on comms for a radio station at the time. And we were both watching, thinking, I've never seen one of them before. The Peruvian necktie came out, didn't it? And it's the first time, I think, in commentary ever I've mentioned those words. A sensational grappler is Misha Serkinov. But as I said a moment or two ago, when two grapplers get it together, it normally turns out to be a bit of a kickboxing fight. And hopefully that's how it plays out. Because, listen, I'm from the Western world. I kind of like it when they both stand up and go toe-to-toe and throw down. And fingers crossed we get it with the big boys in the co-main event this weekend, Nick.
Yeah, I think we absolutely will. You know, I think there's a lot of pressure on that main event to entertain and to be performing and to really live up to Leon Edwards' expectations on making a statement, of course. But when that tends to happen, when everyone's getting a little bit excited about what's happening over here, you tend to get something else play out and steal the show in the co-main. And absolutely, this could happen with Serkinov. And the only losses he's had in his career against Uzumir and Glover Teixeira, knocked out twice. Then he got beat by Johnny Walker. But don't get away from how big that Peruvian necktie first round victory was over Jimmy Crute last time out. Hot prospect from Australia and did a number on him.
Courtney Casey just about to weigh in. Lost last time out to Gillian Robertson, taking on JJ Aldridge. Both of these just absolutely give it when they are in the octagon. It should be a fun fight. Oh, bit of trouble is there. Mask off. Lose a couple of extra ounces. Doesn't look happy, does Courtney, does she? Doesn't look happy at all. Could be a bit of trouble here.
Nope, kicked it off.
She missed?
What?
What's happened there? They normally at least announce the weight.
Yeah. That's what happens now when I get on the scales from lockdown. The scales just say, get off. Get
denial.
off.
Complete and utter denial. Nah, no, it's not reading that. No, it's a printing error. Okay. So she's asking for the towel.
Must be close then for the... Yeah.
So she'll strip down now. This is a flyweight contest. There you go. They're giving it a
126 pounds for Courtney Casey.
Was interesting that they didn't announce anything initially, just literally kicked her off the scale and walks away. But they ended up getting the job done. The towel, well, call it a towel, came out to obviously protect her modesty. And Courtney Casey makes weight against JJ Aldridge.
Yeah, she's never missed weight before, and she's been around the sport for a long time. 17-fight career. She's a lot of experience, Courtney Casey, and people like our own Molly McCann should be looking at the winner of this fight and maybe take an opportunity.
We do kind of forget though when it comes
to... She was a footballer at one point, Courtney Casey. She picked up an injury as a footballer and got into MMA. Bit of background there.
There you go. Similar to Molly. There you can go. Battle of the footballers. That's what we could do, eh? It is. We do seem to forget, don't we, as fight fans, under these crazy pandemic restrictions, how difficult and how much alterations fighters are having to make in order to make weight. You know, the things that they've done previously, whether it be a good beasting in the sauna or whatever it may be, those things are not available. You've got to kind of realign your weight cut and time it to absolute perfection. So therefore, I'm not surprised if every now and again we have situations where someone's got to get down to the kecks and it's right on the wire because they might just have slightly miscalculated it with the new way of going about making weight.
You know what? I'm surprised as well we don't see it more in the women's weight divisions because you have conversations with coaches and nutritionists. And last time I was at the PI, I had lunch with the head nutritionist of the PI and I asked him about how women make weight, the science behind it, the whole menstrual cycle and how women hold on to water differently from men and everything else. And he said, listen, at this point in time, we are still just pumping through data. We're trying to record as much data as possible about how women do retain water, cut weight, hold on to weight, everything else. He said, but we're breaking new ground here. Fight sports hasn't been around long enough for anybody to put real science behind it. It could get to the point in 2 or 3 years' time where the UFC, as the market leader, might turn around and say, you know what, the £1 extra that we allow for the women isn't enough because of the way that a female body works. We're going to have to make it, £2 or whatever it may be. So it's interesting that these women are literally right on the front line. These are pioneers in terms of fight sports. These are women competing as professional prize fighters, probably for the first time in history with the opportunities they're getting. And yet the science is struggling to catch up with them. So credit to the ladies, really, for the girls to making weight so consistency and not really being off the charts, because there could be a real scientific reason there as to why women do struggle to make weight.
If you just joined us on the BT Sport YouTube channel, it's the official weigh-in for Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad going down in the early hours. Main card going down in the early hours of Sunday morning. 1 o'clock, that main card gets underway. 11 p.m. Saturday night is when the prelims get going for you. I can tell you that we're just waiting for Ryan Spann and Jonathan Martinez from that main card. Everybody else has weighed in, therefore including the number 3 ranked welterweight Leon Edwards and the number 13 ranked welterweight in Belal Muhammad. Both hitting the scales. Leon hitting it at 170.5 and Belal Muhammad coming in at championship weight 170. Darren Stewart also weighing in, and Davy Grant, British representation on that main card as well, both hitting it. Jonathan Martinez is actually Davy Grant's opponent. That's who we're waiting for, as well as Ryan Spann, the number 13th ranked light heavyweight. A couple of fighters as well on the prelims, but I'm just keeping you up to date with everything that's going on those main cards. The questions have been coming in thick and fast via social media, so thank you very much for that. Whilst we've got a little bit of a lull in the action, let's see how much mad stuff we can say in 5 minutes when it comes to answering your questions on social media. If we could just pop a couple of them up on the screen, and we'll obviously give you a little bit of a shout out and a little bit of a reference as well. So Daryl, here we go, mate. Will Leon change his style to chase a big KO after Dana's comments? Do you know something? Good point, because this is the danger, isn't it? He's been out of the octagon, Nick, for 603 days. He's watched this division develop. He's watched the likes of Gilbert Burns rise from behind him to already have a world title shot. He's seen other people being manoeuvred into positions. His opponent that he was supposed to fight this weekend in Hamzat Chimaev. All the while, he's been watching and waiting. There's pressure on him now to perform this weekend. He's heard what Dana's said. He's heard what the likes of me and you are saying. He knows what's expected of him. Do you think he'll change his style, going looking for it?
I think he will as the fight progresses. If it progresses the way he hopes it does. I don't think you'll see him come flying out the blocks looking for a first round knockout. But I think he'll, by the time we get into round 3 and 4, if he's ahead and winning rounds comfortably, as we've seen previously, Leon has been accused of cruising through rounds. He can't afford to do that, and I think he won't do that. I think he will go looking for the neck, looking for submissions, or even letting those hands and elbows go tight on the inside, looking for the finish. He's got to.
Official weight 116 pounds for Ashley Yoder.
There you go. That completes the top of the prelims there between Angela Hill, the number 12th ranked strawweight, and Ashley Yoder. Rematch from a couple of years back. Black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Yoder taking on Angela Hill. You don't need me to tell you about her. She's absolutely fighting every week, so you should know enough about Angela Hill, no question about it. It will be interesting to see how Rocky performs and approaches this particular fight. It's his first time behind closed doors. Everybody else has had that opportunity. I said right at the start of the show, 603 days outside the octagon. Out of all the ranked fighters in the UFC, only Nina Ansaroff has been out for longer, and she's been out having a baby. She's back in a couple of weeks. That's how quickly she's managed to turn that situation around. And Rocky's been out for this length of time. It's all passed him by. He's watched it all on TV. We've seen it in all other different aspects of fight sports where people have been out for a long period of time, chomping at the bit, and that adrenaline carries on into the octagon. Sometimes it's a good thing, but sometimes when you're fighting against your natural style, it can be a bad thing. And Belal Muhammad, who's fresh as a daisy, he only fought for, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago. He'll be ready to rock and roll to take this opportunity and claim a decent ranking in the UFC.
Yeah, it's just about levels, and the big question is not necessarily what level is Leon Edwards at. We know he's at the top level. We know he's one of the best guys in the world. What level is Belal Muhammad at? Is he a sleeper guy? Is he a guy that should be in the top 5? Is he the guy that has actually been waiting for this opportunity to prove to the world that he is truly world class and worthy of a higher ranking? We'll only find that out in the early hours of Sunday morning. And if he is, then Leon Edwards has got to be on his A game. And he's just got to win. That's the most important thing, is just get the W, get your arm raised. Because if he thought the road to the top was difficult this time around, then imagine how difficult it would be after losing to the number 13 guy. He'd become the untouchable guy in the welterweight division. So Leon just makes, first and foremost, has to win this fight. But at some stage, if he is levels above Belal, like we suspect he may be, then he can't afford to win the fight in 4th gear. He's got to go through 5th and 6th gears. If that means taking a bit of a chance in the 4th and 5th rounds to try and push for that finish, knowing he's ahead on the scorecards, he's got to do that. He's got to push the fact that Belal's never been 5 rounds. Yes, he looks like he's got a great gas tank, but it's different when you're fighting for 25 minutes, something Leon has got his experience of doing. So I think all eyes are on Belal in the early going to see if he can live with Leon Edwards. And if he can't, over to you, Leon. It's time to put your foot down, son. It's time to make a statement and get that finish.
Is that where the champ has maybe been guilty of recent times? I know that he gave us a wonderful fight against Colby Covington. Those two boys gave us a kickboxing classic, didn't they? A couple of Decembers back. But Kamaru Usman's been accused of that, hasn't he? Just doing exactly what he needs to do in order to win fights and not necessarily putting his foot down and pressing the gas and getting guys out of there, which obviously captures the imagination of the fans. They're very similar when it comes to style-wise. Very, very well-rounded fighters, both Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards. But you're right in what you're saying. Leon has to, at some point in this fight, if he is, let's say, 10 minutes through and he's having a bit of a, not a course, but an easy time of it, he's got to go through the gears in order to at least look for the finish.
Yeah, and the difference there, of course, is the fact that Kamaru Usman's at the top of the tree. He's the guy sitting on the throne with the belt around his waist. Take it off me, boys. It's up to everybody else to take a chance. It's up to everybody else to roll a dice and try and find a finish. Okay, he may get criticism from people like myself, but do you think he cares about that? Of course not. No. He's the champion of the world, and the difference when you're the guy climbing the tree, when you're Rocky Edwards, you've got to impress Dana White. You've got to impress the fan base. You've got to make it, get to the point where people go, Rocky Edwards, after a performance like that, he's got to fight for the title. Coming through a split decision against Belal, while it keeps the wheels on the Rocky train, absolutely. People go, okay, well, when's that Masvidal tough season again? Or, Colby, this is the worst thing, you see. People will just make the link. Colby Covington turned the fight down. But if Leon Edwards struggles through a victory over Belal, people will just go, Colby should fight next then. Put Colby in again because we want to see that rematch. It was a great fight. So it's a tactical move by Colby. Why chance losing to Leon Edwards and falling further down the pecking order? When Leon Edwards is not a guy that necessarily puts on a smoke show, that you can sit back and go, do you want to put that guy who just won on points again, marginally, lost a couple of rounds? Or do you want to see a rematch of one of the best fights in the welterweight division in recent years? Yeah, no problem. I'll be ready. So Colby's played his cards here. It's up to Leon now to come up with the ace in the deck, isn't it? He's got to go, bang, there you go. I'm the next guy. I've made a claim for it, and I won't be denied.
Do you reckon that poll that you can see on screen right now is very British based? Do you reckon the majority of our viewers and people who follow us on social media are British and very pro Leon Edwards? There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I don't think that is a fair representation of the chances that Belal Muhammad has in this fight. He's a very well-rounded fighter. And if Leon Edwards turns up even slightly off his A game, he could come very much unstuck against the number 13th ranked welterweight. He'll have to be right at it. 82% of our audience anyway are backing Leon Edwards to get the job done. I'd have to side with the audience. I would have to side with him. I would given the skill set that the guy's got, I would back Leon Edwards to get the job done here. I just hope that on Sunday morning, our social media feeds, whether it be our Instagram or our Twitter, are absolutely blown up with a little viral video, a little 10, 20, 30-second video of what Leon Edwards has done. Then he's got on the microphone. And this is another key thing as well. He's been brilliant recently. I think he's got very much better in the interviews that I've personally done with him. And I know that you've spoken to him as well, especially over the 18-month period that he's been out. He's got better on the microphone. He's not afraid to share his own personal story. And he's also not afraid to call it what it is. And he's been dead straightforward with some of the questions that have come his way, most certainly this week. And I just hope that if he does put in the performance, he does then think about the microphone. Because Rogan or whoever's on comms, whether it be Bisping or whoever, they're going to put a microphone in his face and they're going to ask him some questions. Let's not be backwards in coming forwards. Let's have it. Let's cut a promo. Let's cut a highlight reel. Let's give him 60 seconds of Rocky magic, drop that mic, clear off, and let everybody else pick up the pieces. Because if he does that, at some point over the next 3 to 4 months, given the tough season, whether it happens or not, given the timeframes and what have you, Leon Edwards will be fighting for UFC gold.
Yes, absolutely. And Dana's, confirmed as much. As long as he looks sensational and gets it done. And listen, not everybody can be Conor McGregor in front of the camera. That's just not in Rocky's makeup. It's not the person he is. So for me, he just needs to take control of it. He needs to just walk off. Again, let's get the win over Belal first. I've seen some stats there. Belal's 3-0 in the time that Rocky's been out with a plus 85 strike differential, which means that his stand-up game is come on so much. Belal, he was very much traditionally a grappler. So it is the number 13 guy in the world for a reason. This is a legit fight. But Leon has to make that statement. He has to get on the microphone and take control of it. If you feel uncomfortable in that environment, don't be in that environment. Just grab the microphone, scream for Kamaru Usman's head, and put the microphone on the floor and walk away. That's all he needs to do. That's all he needs to do. Scream for Kamaru. I'm coming for you, champ. Mic drop. Boom. Leon Edwards has left the building.
That's all you need to do, man. Ben Kiley on our social media. Thank you very much for this. Does Leon Edwards have any hope of beating Kamaru Usman if they fought again? Yes, he does. Now, let's take you back to that first fight, because the first fight wasn't a championship fight. It was over 15 minutes, and it was razor close. You ask Kamaru Usman, he knows full well that was a very, very tight fight. Now, of course, since that, Kamaru Usman has most certainly developed his game. He's most certainly got better. And as you've seen of recent times, he is absolutely on the money and probably the best right now when it comes to the UFC champions, the most well-rounded, most difficult to beat. And you look at the guys in the welterweight division, there's some talent in there, but they're all very good at one particular thing and okay at other parts of mixed martial arts. And that's no disrespect to him. That's just the way it is. Whereas Kamaru Usman is probably the most well-rounded. Out of all the challengers, Leon Edwards, I think, is the most well-rounded. If you fight, for example, Colby Covington, you know to fight him with your fists and your feet rather than to wrestle and grapple with him. What do you do with Leon Edwards? And what do you do with Leon Edwards over 25 minutes? I'm not saying that Leon Edwards is going to go in there and beat Kamaru Usman, but what I will say is that Leon Edwards will be the most competitive fight and most difficult fight for Kamaru Usman out of all the top challengers right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he has come on leaps and bounds since their first fight. So has Kamaru, of course. But the evolution and development of Leon Edwards, the performances speak for themselves. And when you talk about being well-rounded as well, I had a great bit of analysis this week from a friend of mine, Jack Slack, who's got a brilliant, is on his own podcast. And he was saying about well-rounded and what that means. It doesn't mean you're the best at wrestling, the best at boxing, the best at kickboxing, the best at jiu-jitsu. What it means is to be the best well-rounded fighter, the most accomplished fighter is. You're so well-rounded in bringing the fight back to your strength. It doesn't mean you're going to go and you're going to roll jiu-jitsu with a jiu-jitsu black belt and be comfortable there. What it means is you're going to get yourself in those positions and be able to fight out of them to get back into a position of strength, to get back to an area where you're strongest at. And that's what Leon Edwards has done so well and evolved so well with his game. Yes, there was an issue once he got into that too close for the striking. Once he got in the clinch, there was that panic, that fear of being taken down. That's long gone. That's been eradicated since that first Kamaru Usman fight. In the clinch now is where he thrives. That's where he does all his best work. And his takedown defense is absolutely brilliant. And when he does get taken down, it doesn't bother him. He doesn't panic. That Jamaican blood flowing through his body, it reaps the rewards then, because there's zero panic in Leon Edwards. He's comfortable everywhere. And that's what makes him so formidable and so dangerous. And hopefully, the 18 months, the 20 months out or whatever it is, isn't going to affect him this weekend. I don't think it is, because as far as I know, he hasn't been out the gym. It's not like he's had time off. He certainly hasn't put any weight on. Every time we've spoken to him, he's been chomping at the bit because he's had so many fights scheduled which have fallen off. So I think we're going to get him with his A game. He knows how close he is now. He could have took the world title fight in May last year, but it was under panic circumstances. It was during the real outbreak of the pandemic. And he had no idea whether he'd even be allowed back in the country after the fight to get back to his young family. So I've got no issue with him refusing that fight. But you better believe if he's got the ability, if he's got the patience to refuse a world title fight because he wasn't on his A game, he wasn't on his terms, then you better believe he's only accepted this fight because he is on his A game. He is ready. He was prepared to fight Colby Covington at short notice. This guy is ready. I think Leon Edwards is going to make a statement this weekend. And I think Kamaru Usman will have to come out and address it. And I think the whole UFC will. And if TUF isn't happening next, if there is going to be a delay to TUF, I think Leon could get a title shot this summer.
Big, man. Big. Keep your questions coming our way. Keep floating them onto our social media and we'll whack them up on the screen and we'll give you a little bit of a mention as well if you are just joining us on the BT Sport YouTube channel. Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad are both weighed in. Leon weighed in at 170.5. Belal Muhammad came in at championship weight, 170. Both are on and the main event is on as well. When it comes to the main card, we're just waiting for Jonathan Martinez, who is Davey Grant's opponent, and Ryan Spann, who is one half of that co-main event. I just can't see Edwards not adding win number 9 to his winning streak. Gangland MMA, thank you very much for that on Twitter, mate. Much appreciated. I can understand that. I can completely understand that. But again, do not sleep on Belal Muhammad. No, don't sleep on the dude because he's a lot fresher. He's been in action recently, and you know full well that not only can he do he can do bits in most aspects of mixed martial arts, he's been given an opportunity. If you'd have asked him at the end of his last fight, right, you're going to fight the number 3 in the division next, he'd have gone, what are you talking about, man? That's never going to happen. I'm not there yet. I'm probably going to fight the number 9 or the number 10 at best. Because other people turned down a fight, he has now got an opportunity to leapfrog so many fighters. Some people rise to that occasion. We've seen it on many times, haven't we? When people get an opportunity like that, they grab it with both hands and they run with it. And if you know anything about Belal Muhammad's backstory, where he's come from, and the way that his father has drilled in that work ethic mentality, he will not let this opportunity pass. He's going to throw the kitchen sink at Leon Edwards tomorrow night. So Leon Edwards will be, he'll have to be right at it in order to come through.
Yeah, listen, the guy's in a no-lose situation, isn't he? He's ranked outside the top 10 and he's fighting the guy ranked at number 3. Nobody expects him. Well, nobody, kind of outside of the inner sanctum expects him to get this win. The bookies certainly won't expect him to get this win. But you better believe he will expect to get this win. His whole team will be confident that Belal can win this opportunity. And as I say, the fact that there is little pressure on his shoulders, the fact that it is a win-win situation. So what, you lose against the number 3 guy in the world? If you look good in that defeat, if you go the distance and maybe it's a split decision, you ain't ranked number 13 on Monday morning. You're probably ranked, you're going to jump up those rankings anyway. So Belal's in a wonderful position. And as you say, he's got that grappling to fall back on. He's got that grappling base, which is so important in high-level mixed martial arts. And he'll know if he can get his grappling game going, then he can obviously win rounds and get a win over Leon Edwards that way. But every fight starts standing up. And Belal's stand-up game, as the stats prove, has also greatly evolved in the last 18 months, 2 years also. So he comes into it absolutely riding the crest of a wave, and it's a massive opportunity for him. It's just, for me, it's the 5 rounds. Will the 5 rounds, and the fact he's never been 5 rounds, impact on the pace he starts with early in the fight? Because if it was for me, if I'm Team Belal against the guy who's been out for 18 months, I'm saying fly out the traps, come at him, let's get a lead early on and see if we can hold on to it. Because they all heard what Dana said as well. Looks sensational, he got the next title shot. Belal Muhammad, I see him reply to that BT tweet saying, that's all I needed to hear. Meaning, I know Leon's got to take a chance at some point to try and put me away. When he does, I'm going to be ready.
Should be a cracker, man. Don't forget, this gets underway. 11 o'clock, the prelims on BT Sport with a 1 a.m. start for that main card. And the main card kicks off with our very own Darren Stewart taking on Eric Anders in the middleweight division. Whilst we've got a little bit of a lull in the action, still waiting for Ryan Spann, who's one half of the co-main event, and Jonathan Martinez, who's fighting Davey Grant on that main card. Let's have a quick talk back to last weekend. Of course, Jan Blachowicz came through and he is the light heavyweight champion of the world still with a fantastic performance against Israel Adesanya. Israel, no doubt, goes back, dusts himself off, and he will be defending his belt at middleweight, maybe against the winner of Till versus Vittoria, which we talked about a few moments ago. We know that Amanda Nunes, she is the queen of 2 divisions at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that UFC featherweight division, given that Megan Anderson is now testing out free agency and maybe moving on to a different franchise. But in that bantamweight fight, Nick, there's a lot to talk about off the back of the way that the fight is going to play out. Now, nobody watching this is against a rematch. Nobody is against those 2 guys going at it again for the fight. But off the back of the way that the fight finished, it does bring up a lot of questions of should we be crowning new champions off the back of disqualifications. And there's loads of debate. I mean, all you've got to do is go on social media and people are still talking about it. What are we? 6-7 days removed from the fight and people are still talking about Aljamain Sterling and Pierre Yan, where Aljamain Sterling becomes the bantamweight champion of the world off the back of some craziness from Yan. He looked like he was in the ascendancy of the fight. He looked like he was just putting his foot down and really pulling away from Aljamain Sterling, and then he threw the most craziest of illegal knees, gets himself disqualified and loses his championship belt. Now, that is one conversation within itself. One thing that I do want to address, though, is that I do find it crazy that quite a lot of the MMA fan base have pointed their frustrations towards the guy that didn't make the mistake. Aljamain Sterling's getting hell on his Instagram, on his Twitter, any social media platform, and he's had to do interviews this week in order to justify where he's at and the stature he's at and what he actually thinks about being crowned the bantamweight champion. Let's just get one thing 100%. Aljamain Sterling did nothing wrong. He didn't make up the rules. He wasn't the one that says, right, I need to be champion right now. He said in plenty of interviews this week that he genuinely believed that the fight would go to a no contest. Pierre Yan threw the illegal knee. Pierre Yan broke the rules. Pierre Yan's only got himself to blame, hasn't he?
Of course. You know, it's been mental. And to be honest, I think part of the backlash, I think if we'd seen nothing after the fighters walked away, and after Sterling was initially held from the octagon, reluctantly with the belt, he had initially dropped the belt on the floor. Had we seen that as being the fallout, I think it would have sat a lot better with fans and with fellow fighters. I think the main backlash has been based on Sterling's insistence then to do an interview. That seemed quite unusual that he was in no fit state to continue. At one stage, he was in no fit state to stand on his feet. And yet suddenly, oh yeah, I'm fine to do an interview though with the belt on my shoulder or whatever it was. And then I think it was the locker room photograph that went all over social media afterwards of him drinking champagne with his team. I don't think that quite sat very well with fighters or fans. And I think a lot of what he's bought is based on his reaction since. But you're absolutely right. He did nothing wrong. And I've been thinking about this non-stop all week about whether the rules are right and whether the rules are wrong. Should they crown a champion when there's a foul like this committed? And you know what? The more I think about it, the more I think, yes, they should, because Yan knows the rules. He broke the rules. He made a clear foul. You know, he could have seriously injured Aljamain Sterling there and ended his career.
But what you're saying there is you're now referring to crowning a new champion. I think the majority of fans fully understand that Pierre Yan, he broke the rules. He's the one that made the mistake, and he shouldn't have his belt. Therefore, he should lose his title from an incident like that. But therefore, should the guy that he's committed the foul against be crowned the champion, or should the belt go vacant?
Again, or should we go to the scorecards at that point and see where the fight is? And do we go to the scorecards with a minus points loss in favour of the guy who committed the foul? I think the UFC will tackle this moving forward because it has raised some pretty serious questions. But I don't begrudge Aljamain Sterling walking around New York with the belt over his shoulder, but I'm sure people are sniggering behind his back.
Here's Gloria DePaula. She's taking on Yu Frey. 115 and a half.
Official weight 115
What's it so long?
and a half for Gloria DePaula.
There she goes.
Yeah.
3 knockout victories
Dana
and
White.
5 wins in the UFC. She has got a lot of power, that kid.
She has, yeah, and she trains alongside Charles Oliveira and Thomas Almeida back in Brazil. So obviously a red-hot camp right now with Oliveira banging on the door for a title shot at lightweight, but made a big sound coming through the Dana White Contender Series, and she's a big old get. And she's been in Vegas, incidentally, Paula. She's been in Vegas for almost 3.5 weeks now. So for somebody so far down on the prelims to have made that kind of move so early to make sure they're settled in, that just highlights to me how serious she is about her career and how serious she is about progressing through these rankings.
I thought we had another one then. I thought they were coming like buses then. But no, a little bit more of a delay. I just want to go back to that conversation about the bantamweight title, and whether you should be crowning a new champion off the back of a disqualification. And my take immediately off the back of it is that it didn't sit right, and I think a lot of fans felt that, listen, it's not Aljamain Sterling's fault. I want to keep reiterating that. It's not his fault that he is the bantamweight champion of the world. Pierre Yan made a massive mistake. He's the one that brought the rules, and he most certainly deserves to lose his belt. Does Aljamain Sterling deserve to be crowned champion? In my opinion, no. And that belt should have gone vacant. In this incident, I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with Pierre Yan and Aljamain Sterling fighting again in a rematch in order to distinguish who the bantamweight champion is. But I don't think either of them should be going to the octagon as the champion. I think it should be for a vacant title. Now,
let me butt in then. Is that because, and we all watched it, and we all probably, well, apart from one judge who had Sterling winning, we all scored it the same way. We thought that the tide had turned. It looked like Petr Yan had got a grip of the fight. It looked like he was going to dominate that 4th round. It looked like the 5th round could have gone the same way. So I think that's part of the reckoning here is, should really have just been made vacant because Yan was on his way to a victory. But then there's another argument to say, well, Sterling had a whole round which he could have won the 5th round. For all we know, he could have turned it round and had a second win in the 5th round and won it massive. And it would have been really close on the scorecards. And then obviously the other conversation comes in. If we make it the rule that the defending champion creates a foul in a world title defense, so the fight is then, the belt is then made vacant. Well, what if the champion's lost 4.5 rounds of the fight and then makes a foul? I think there's too many grey areas. He lost the fight because of a foul. I think because it's a loss, Sterling's got to take the belt home.
I'll answer your question in a minute, sweet cheeks, all right? Jason Witt's about to weigh in. So once he's done that, I'll come back at you. Jason Witt's coming off the back of that 48-second loss last June. Sorry, he's not coming off the back of that. He's won since, but he lost last June in 48 seconds, and he's taking on an absolute banger in Matthew Semelsberger, who weighed in earlier on. Welterweight is the contest. Let's see where he's at.
Official weight 171 pounds for Jason Witt.
That concludes all the prelims. So all the prelims have weighed in.
Yeah.
Yeah. He must have been on a bus or something. Going on a little bit of a trek around Vegas. But all the prelims have weighed in and they've nailed it. We are just currently waiting for Jonathan Martinez and Ryan Spann from the main card. Ryan Spann, of course, in the co-main event. And Jonathan Martinez taking on Davy Grant at that bantamweight contest. Jonathan Martinez, this is a little bit worrying actually, because Jonathan Martinez in his last fight weighed in at 140.5, so well and truly over the 136 limit. It's going to be interesting to see where he's at and whether there's maybe a percentage decrease in his wages coming. But listen, I'm shooting the gun. We'll get there eventually, no doubt.
He's such a strange guy, this Martinez. We'll talk about him more when he actually does get on the scales. But he's fought down a flyweight He's fought at bantamweight and he's fought up at featherweight. He actually beat Thomas Almeida up at featherweight as well. So, he's obviously a big lad for this weight division, but the fact that he's been down a fly, you'd think he'd have a bit more control over his weight. But this is very concerning at this stage, and obviously he's struggling to get back. He's struggling to get back down to bantamweight. Let's just hope everything's okay and he does weigh in, because, as I say, Davy Grant only fights once a year as it is. The last thing we want is for his opponent to pull out at literally the 11th hour.
Going back to our discussion about disqualified fights resulting in new champions, like I said, I personally would have liked the title to have gone vacant last weekend, and therefore, at the UFC's discretion, they then decide who fights for that vacant title. Now, obviously, the fouled fighter is going to be one half of that title fight. It doesn't necessarily mean that Sterling. It doesn't necessarily mean that Jan fights for the title next if he's committed a foul. Now, like you've said, there's loads of different permutations, loads of different circumstances that can arise from this. Jan could have been well down on the cards and just thrown a foul in order to throw the fight. All these things could play out. The UFC's discretion then can come in and say, well, hang on a minute, he's just thrown the fight. There's no way he's fighting for a title next. He's lost his title. The title is vacant. Aljamain Sterling fights for the title against an other, whoever it may be. And in this case, I'd probably go with Corey Sandhagen or something like that. And there would have been a situation as well where maybe the fight would have been offered to Aljamain Sterling within the fight to continue. And if he is going to continue, then obviously there's a 2-point deduction there on Petr Yan. It would have been interesting to see if Aljamain Sterling would have continued. Obviously he couldn't because of, listen, he knew how hurt he was and he decided not to continue. But if he would have continued and those 2-point deductions would have come in across the board, Aljamain Sterling would have been up. And all he would have needed to do is stay on his feet in the final round in order to see it out and become the new bantamweight champion.
Yeah, exactly. And that's concerning in the aftermath, where he's revealed that he thought it would be a no contest, which is obviously part of the reason why he was so devastated when he was on the floor in tears before he got announced as the new champion, because he thought, I'm in no fit position to continue here, and now the fight's going to go to a no contest, whereas he was up on one of the judges' scorecards, whether you believe that or not, whether you had it that way or you don't. He was. And had he known all the information, if he was able to program and appreciate and take in that information, the condition he was in after taking a knee to the temple that he did, then would he have made a different decision? Would he have laboured on knowing full well, actually, now I'm ahead on all the judges' scorecards, or at least level. I think two of the judges actually had Jan up, and with the 2-point deduction, however, they may well have given Jan that 4th round, which would have made it a 9-8 round. So it wouldn't have necessarily mean Sterling was up on all the cards in the aftermath if they'd have given the round to Jan. But then how can you give a round to a guy who's caused a deliberate foul and potentially, almost ruin the fight? It's so messy. There's so many grey areas, and maybe that's why the UFC haven't been quick to come in and correct it, because, going to the scorecards is all good and well. Let's go to the scorecards. Okay, Sterling's up on them all. Great, Sterling's the new champion. Let's go to the scorecards. Wait a minute, Jan's up here. Jan's heading to win this fight. Right, no contest. We'll use our discretion as to who fights for the vacant belt next, but you're getting stripped of the belt. Maybe that's the conversation, but it's so fluid. It's just not black and white. And unfortunately, as we found out in this instance and many others, the unified rules, there's a lot of, never mind fans, there's a lot of fighters and coaches in the UFC competing there that don't understand the unified rules as it is. To make it even more grey and convoluted, I think is a bad idea. It needs to be clean, precise. This is what happens in that instance moving forward. The problem is there's no right or wrong answer right now.
I've no doubt the debate is going to rage on. You're more than welcome to join us with your thoughts on that. Just drop it in the YouTube comments. And if you are joining us on the YouTube channel here at BT Sport, it is the official weigh-in for Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad. Both of those guys have weighed in. Leon hitting 170.5, Belal Muhammad hitting championship weight at 170. The main event's on. We're just currently waiting for Jonathan Martinez, who we were speaking about a moment or two ago, fighting Davy Grant. He's had weight problems in the past. It's going to be interesting to see where he's at in that bantamweight clash. And Ryan Spann, he's taking on Misha Serkinov in the light heavyweight division. That's the co-main event. Ryan Spann is who we are waiting for. Just those two fighters. Ben has just dropped a comment in our YouTube comments section. Who have you got in the UFC 260 title fights. Why are you doing this, Ben? You know full well, right, that I will probably be interviewing some of these fighters that are connected to the UFC 260 title fights. And now you're asking me to make a pick ahead of those interviews, so therefore those fighters can give me abuse during the interview that maybe I didn't pick them or I picked the other guy. Listen, he's done me there as Ben here. But I've got... Listen, it's a tough one. The heavyweight title fight between Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou. Everybody knows that Francis Ngannou is my old training partner. We've had a grapple in the past. Well, I've taught him a few things. He knows what's going down. But very rarely do I change my mind from something that has happened in the original contest between these two guys. Don't forget, this is a rematch. These guys have been at it before. Francis has fought Stipe before, and it was a shutout. Stipe wrestled the living daylights out of him and shut the game down. Now, has Francis got better since then? Yes. Has Stipe got better since then? Yeah, arguably. But also, there's a bit of time on people's side here. Stipe's got a touch older, and he suffered some serious injuries. Those eye injuries that he suffered at the hands of Daniel Cormier are no joke. How bad are they? Where is he right now? How badly does he want it? Nothing is leading me to question the champion, the greatest heavyweight that there has ever been in the UFC. So therefore, I would always side with the person that won the first fight doing the exact same thing again because they've got a blueprint. But you can't argue with what Francis has done recently. He's most certainly dusted himself off and come again. It's going to be a hell of a fight. I would probably sway towards a Stipe Miocic decision win, very similar to the first fight. But who knows, man? Who knows? Let's hope we get some fireworks. What do you reckon, Nick?
I can't believe you've done Francis like that. I thought you were pals. That's it now.
He's great, mate.
No drinking buddy in Vegas anymore.
I out-grappled him. If I can out-grapple him, Stipe can out-grapple him. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
I think we've all seen the footage, and we all know that's absolutely so far from the truth. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
I think if you ever dream about out-grappling Francis Ngannou, you better wake up and apologise because there's just no way. I'm like you. Listen, Miocic is the greatest heavyweight the UFC's ever had. Statistics prove that. You know, he's an incredible champion. And I'm already looking forward to Stipe versus John Jones, I've got to be honest. And I think Francis, of course, has got to land something sensational to turn this fight on its head. Stipe knows how to beat this guy. And as much as Francis has improved, I think Stipe Miocic is just too grounded in the grappling side of the game and his cage control. He knows what Francis's strengths are, and he's going to get as far away from those strengths as he possibly can.
The more difficult fight, I think, to make a pick on is the featherweight contest between Volkanovski and Ortega. I think that's a really difficult fight to pick. If you'd have asked me this maybe this time last year, I'd have gone Volkanovski because I hadn't seen Ortega come bouncing back in the way that he did against the Korean Zombie, which I thought he was absolutely outrageous in that fight. Probably one of the best performances that we've seen from him in the UFC, given as well the fact that we saw Max Holloway put on a bit of a clinic against him. And listen, we can't rule Max Holloway out of this featherweight equation, can we, given what he just did to Calvin Kattar at the start of the year? That was probably one of the best performances I've seen, period, in any weight division. It was unreal. It's a very difficult fight to pick this. Really, really difficult. What do you go with? Do you go with the bear of Volkanovski, the champion, or do you just go with the cleanliness of the work and the creativity of the work of Ortega? And also, don't forget, he's a wonderful grappler as well. He's fantastic on his back. Mate, toss a coin. That is an unbelievable fight. Toss a coin. I think it'll be a belter.
Yeah, I'm so high on Ortega again. You know, the way he came back against Korean Zombie 2 years out of the sport. You know, when he went into the Max Holloway fight, he had so much momentum and everyone was like, this is the guy. This is the guy that's going to beat Max Holloway. This guy is legit. And Max Holloway put on an absolute clinic. Again, one of the best performances of Max Holloway's career against Ortega. And Ortega hadn't been seen for 2 years since. And then he comes back against Korean Zombie. There's so many question marks about where he's at. And he looks even better than he did in the run-up to the Max Holloway fight. So Ortega, for me, looks fantastic coming in. And those 2 years away, that loss to Max Holloway, he didn't go away, and cry. He went away and worked, and he's went away and improved, and he looks even better. And I think for Volkanovski, he'll just be happy it's not Max Holloway. He'll just be happy it's anybody but Max Holloway in the opposite corner. It is a different look for him. Ortega's got much different strengths. He's much taller. That, as you say, that submission game of his is absolutely lethal. But what we've seen from Volkanovski in 2 fights with Max Holloway was this incredible pace that he sets, this unrelenting pace that nobody can seemingly live with. And that, for me, is what Max Holloway had over Ortega in their fight. That's what done Ortega in the end. And while he's improved technically, has he got it in the gas tank to be able to fight at that pace and go at the pace that Volkanovski keeps? I'm not sure. I'm going to side with the champion right now. But listen, you know where to stand in this weight division, baby. These guys are keeping it warm for my boy Blessed to get back where he belongs at the top of the featherweight division. For me, beat Volkanovski twice anyway. He didn't. He's the champ in Emirates. He should still have the belt. These guys are keeping it warm for him. Whatever happens, get Max Holloway in with the winner in the summer, please, Dana.
Look at you. You're only upset because I called the first fight that Volkanovski had the job done. It's very rare that I get one right, but you know what I mean. That's why you're throwing shade all over me. We need to see it again. I know that Alex Volkanovski won't want to hear that. After the performance that we've just seen from Max Holloway, he needs to be fighting for the title again this year. It was unbelievable what he did against Calvin Kattar. Now then, what have we got here? Azim on our Twitter page. Thank you very much for this, mate. Do you think there is potential that Kevin Holland fights for the belt in 2021? Well, let's be honest. Kevin Holland fights that often that he could probably rack up the amount of victories in order to get himself a title shot at some point in 2021. He's got Derek Brunson coming up. These two have obviously been back and forth. They've been giving each other loads on social media. Listen, Derek Brunson's legit, man. This is a proper fight. I thought that the Souza fight might have been just a touch too much at that particular time for Kevin Holland, but he pulled me pants down and slapped me backside all over the gaff, didn't he? What a performance that was, giving us one of the knockouts of the year, one of the most obscure knockouts I've ever seen in my life. It was brilliant. And now he brings that momentum into this year. Don't forget, I think his first fight in 2020 was in May. So within a 12-month period, this is now what, his 6th UFC fight? Absolutely outrageous. Do I think he could be challenging for a title? Maybe, because the division is kind of wide open with the champion having defeated the majority of the people that are there to challenge him. So if he's looking for some fresh talent at the top of the tree, Kevin Holland might be the guy, mate. If he comes through Brunson, of course.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, you look at the guys above you. What is he, 11 in the world? Something like that. You know, I think Brunson's just ahead of him at the moment. Brunson's around 7 or 8, something like that. So Kevin Holland's absolutely looking upwards, and he's keeping busy enough, and he's putting in the kind of performances that are going to keep moving him up the ranks. If you can beat Brunson in the top, I'll have send you.
Have we lost Nick?
Or any of those guys. He wants fresh blood. And while Till and Vettori look like they're in pole position, you better believe that Kevin Holland's just behind. If Till versus Vettori ends up being a bit of a snooze fest and Kevin Holland records another knockout of the year contender against Derek Brunson, then you just don't know. I think that's a legit question, Azim. I think he's probably 2 wins away, 2 big wins away. But after the year he had in 2020, who would gamble, who would bet against Kevin Holland? And the guys, listen, he's a superstar, isn't he? We both spoke to him. The guy's got superstar written all over him. He knows how to sell a fight. He knows how to sell himself. And it would make absolutely sense for the UFC to put him in there.
That's obviously next weekend. There was a little bit of technical difficulty as Nick was speaking there, so hopefully you managed to catch everything that he said. You definitely heard the word till, so you know what I mean. Anyway, we will be hopefully speaking to Kevin Holland and Derek Brunson at some point in the week as we build up towards next weekend's fight. That fight's a cracking fight. Again, 2 guys that have called for it, 2 guys that have talked the talk, they're walking the walk at the moment. And this is a fight that catapults them very close to that top 5. And as you've just mentioned there in what you were saying, Nick, you know, there's a lot of runners and riders in this division, but the champ's been through them. So he's going to look for some fresh meat. And who knows, if you make a statement performance, Izzy might just have a look and say, go on then, let's have a dance, son. What's this? Whiter Jack on the Instagram. If you could add 1 weight class for men or women, what is it? Wow, this is good. Now, are we allowed to change the differences in weight? Are we allowed to do that? Are we allowed to bring something in? Or do we have to keep everything as it is and maybe stick something in a brand new position? Because mine would obviously be, Dana's going to hate this if he sees it. Mine would be 165, right? 155, 165, 175 maybe, and then up to obviously 185. That's how I would work it. I just think that jump between those weight divisions there is just too much. And I think there's a lot of fighters that fall in between the gaps, don't they? You know what I mean? That are too small for one, too big for another, and maybe struggle in order to get down to weight. I think if you bring in at 165, it gives... I don't think you'd dilute any divisions. I think you'd just create another healthy division right smack in the middle between lightweight and welterweight. But what do I know, mate? Dana's dead against it, so...
What are you messing with welterweight for then? Why don't you just do 162.5 and slot it straight in? Why are you moving welterweight up 5 pounds? 162.5 is right in the middle.
Nah, not having that. 160, I just like the fives. 155, 165, 175, 185. There you go, done. Easy.
Yeah, but then you go to 205.
Yeah, but they're big lads, aren't they? You know what I mean? They're carrying a little bit extra timber. They're all right for that. Would you bring in atom weight for the females? Yes. Would you bring in that? Is that what you bring in?
Yes. Yeah, not to bang the drum again. I know I've already mentioned it twice already during this weigh-in show, but yeah, you know, the featherweight division for the women, done. Thank you very much. Let's bring in the atom weights. There's a real strong field of atom weights. Women who are all, you know, you're looking at around 5'1" to 5'4". They're just too small to do straw weight, and yet there's a thriving, certainly over in Invicta. There's a real strong weight class there for women that would come in. Brilliant tough season like we have with the straw weights. I think that'd be a great way to launch the women's atom weight division. So yeah, that's where I'd go with it. I'm not gonna upset Dana by talking about 162.5. He's already said no to that. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the girls and atom weight, please.
Yeah, I'll just get out from underneath this bush, that you've thrown me under. Cheers, mate. Much appreciated. Here's one for you. Beneil Dariush and Tony Ferguson is expected to go down at UFC 262. That's according to the sources that are telling our mate John Morgan. This is a tweet from Mike Bonn of MMA Junkie. Sounds like a great matchup. Listen, it does sound like a great matchup, but I'm high on Islam Makhachev. Come on, man. Makhachev's called the name. The narrative's there for everybody. Makhachev is the next guy from the Eagles MMA, the Khabib tribe, yeah? We know about the narrative of Khabib and Tony Ferguson. What was it booked? About 25 times and never actually got made. Sack it. Give it Islam. Give it Islam Makhachev. He needs a name now. He had a wonderful performance last weekend against Drew Dober. He got the finish. He looked good. Now let's give him some top-ranked guys and let's see if he is what everybody says he is. Tony Ferguson is legit, top class. I don't care what anybody says. He's still got it. He can still do bits. And if Islam Makhachev comes through and gets a victory against Tony Ferguson, the commissioner here is going to have to stick him in his lightweight tournament. That's how it's going to go down. Am I right?
Yeah, listen, to be totally honest with you, Beneil Dariush, Islam Makhachev, even Dan Hooker coming back, Ferreira, Kevin Lee, all these guys on the fringes of the top 10 should be looking at Tony Ferguson exactly the same way. Slice and dicing. He looks, he's done. He looks done. He looks like the best days are behind him. He looks finished. And he looks like his cards are marked. And if you're one of these guys coming through, he is the guy. He is the ultimate mark at the top of this lightweight division. He's the ultimate scalp that's sitting there, seemingly primed, chopped liver, ready to tear through. So I'm not surprised Makhachev wants him. I'm not surprised Beneil Dariush wants him. He's the guy.
I'll do the Tony Ferguson interviews going forward for BT Sport, because I don't think if Tony sees this. All right, then, what's this? Because Makhachev, in the aftermath of the fight last weekend, mentioned Tony's name on social media. He's referred back to Rafael Dos Anjos as well. That's a fight that was booked that fell off. You can see the tweet there. You can see it there. Yeah. What is the more established win then for you for Islam Makhachev? If he comes through a fight with Rafael Dos Anjos, the former lightweight champion, is that more credit than beating Tony Ferguson?
Yeah, I think so right now. Yeah, I think so. Just because Ferguson's coming in off 2 losses, 2 destructive losses as well, where he got hurt, got beat up at times. I think Tony Ferguson needs to be really careful about which opponent he chooses next. And I think the last thing he'll want to do is fight Makhachev. That's not to say Dariush is any softer a touch. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. The Rafael dos Anjos, yeah, listen, on paper that fight makes perfect sense. But Rafael dos Anjos has turned up twice. He's been ready twice, and Makhachev's pulled out twice. So if you team Rafael dos Anjos, you think, well, why should I accept that fight again? The guy's 7 places below me in the rankings. I've agreed to face him twice, and he hasn't turned up twice. So I'd be interested to see if RDA wants to take that fight. But I think Makhachev, of course, he looked great last time out, but once again, I'll reiterate it, he's never beat anybody in the top 15. We're all super high on him because he's Khabib's mate and Khabib's sparring partner, and he looked wonderful against Drew Dober, who even I myself said should have been ranked. But the fact remains, Makhachev has yet to manhandle and beat up a ranked lightweight. So all these guys are on the list for me. Never mind RDA or Tony Ferguson. Anyone in the top 15 should be on Makhachev's radar.
There you go. I love the way that you got out of that, Tony Ferguson. Chopped liver shout. What's that there? At Neil Magny on... hang on. No, that's from Khamzat Chimaev, it looks like. Khamzat Chimaev on Twitter posting a picture towards Neil Magny. Is that a call-out? Is that what he's after?
There's talk, isn't there? Yeah, there's a lot of talk behind it.
Well, my take on this is, let's stop putting pressure on Khamzat. He's a young guy. I keep coming back to this. He's had a horrible health scare, hasn't he, with the COVID thing? And I know that people might look at that and go and have their own opinions on it. This disease, this virus affects people in different ways. It's obviously affected Khamzat Chimaev in a very bad way. If it didn't, he'd be fighting this weekend. We'd have just watched him weigh in and he'd be fighting Leon Edwards this weekend, wouldn't he? Let's just take a step back. Let him see the doctors. Let him go through this process of getting healthy. Then let him resume his career. Now, if that takes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, so be it. He's 26 years of age. He's got plenty of time to get himself sorted and get himself back in the octagon. He doesn't need to be encouraged, even though we love it. Of course we love it. We love his attitude. Buzz off his attitude. But he doesn't need to be encouraged to be calling fighters out to be looking for fights in the summer of this year, putting pressure on himself in order to get... What do we want? Him to book another fight and it to fall off because he can't do it? No, that's not what I want. Get fit, get healthy. So therefore, the next time you sign on the contract, next time you sign on that dotted line, we know full well that you will be there and that octagon door will shut and you will fight. Get better. That's the first thing for Khamzat Chimaev. We need to stop encouraging fight talk right now because he's not healthy.
No, he isn't healthy. And it's surprising that he's back on social media again, calling out Neil Magny. But this does seem to be...
It's not surprising. It's Khamzat. He loves fighting. He'd do the fight. He loves it.
The fight with Neil Magny it makes perfect sense. Neil Magny is a guy and he's a gatekeeper to the rankings in this weight division. And I think it's a great fight for him. I think it's the perfect fight for him. But you're right, man. He just needs to get healthy first. Let's see if... I want to hear reports of him getting through one training session unscathed before I get excited about his comeback.
No, absolutely. And with all due respect to Neil Magny, I think he's a wonderful, wonderful fighter. The blueprint's there. We saw Michael Chiesa put in a sensational performance on Fight Island against him. And Khamzat Chimaev does the same things. You know, the blueprint's there. You know how to go about and take that fight. We've got a little bit of a dodgy feed there from the UFC guys, a little bit of bleeping in the background just in case you heard that. So the blueprint's there. Once he's fit, make that fight. I'm in for that. I'm absolutely in for Neil Magny and Khamzat Chimaev. Definitely deal me in for that. If you are just joining us on the BT Sport YouTube channel, it is the official weigh-in for Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad. Both those gentlemen have weighed in successfully. We've been here for an hour and 40 minutes and we're just waiting for another 2 fighters to weigh in from the main card. Ryan Spann being one of them from the co-main event. You're more than welcome to tweet your questions our way, so therefore we can keep the conversation based on UFC going. Like I said, we are scheduled for another 20 minutes. That's how long Ryan Spann has to weigh in. And of course, Jonathan Martinez, who we've been mentioning throughout the course of this broadcast. But you'll be pleased to know that Leon Edwards hit 170.5 and Belal Muhammad hit championship weight. So the main event's on, and I've no doubt that's what you're tuning in for. Davy Grant's hit weight, as has Darren Stewart. So if you're tuning in from the UK, wanting to know about UK fighters, they're all good, man. They're currently at the buffet rehydrating, and I wish I was at that buffet with them rehydrating as well. But we'll continue the programme as we're waiting for two more fighters to get the job done. Do you think Conor should have a fight before the trilogy with Dustin? Jack?
Yes.
You're nodding.
Yes, absolutely.
Go on then.
Absolutely, Jack. And the reason being, I just think, again, he jumped back in with Dustin after a long period away from the sport. He came up short. You know, we were speaking to John last week, and he was telling us that, you know, they were already looking at the Pacquiao fight. It was all done. And I just think Conor McGregor, who isn't focused on his craft, who isn't 100% committed to MMA, is a danger to himself, as he proved against Dustin. And I think jumping straight back in with Dustin because it's a necessity, because he feels like he needs to get it back quick. When Dustin has clearly evolved so much since their third fight, I think let Dustin Poirier go and fight for this vacant belt, this belt that's going to be vacated any time by Khabib. Let him go and fight for it, whether it's Oliveira or Chandler, whoever it may be. And Conor McGregor should do the trilogy fight with Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is not a top 10 lightweight, far from it. He should fight Nate Diaz in a trilogy fight at 155 pounds, get that camp out the way, get that victory out the way, and then take on Dustin. It's Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor, on the back of a win, walks into a title fight in any weight division he likes. So the title fight's not going to go away, and the narrative of the rematch isn't going to go away with Dustin Poirier. I don't believe Conor McGregor can get the work in to be 100% at his best right now by jumping straight back in with Dustin next. I think that is in Dustin's favour. Dustin's the one who's in the ascendancy, and I think all the pressure's on Conor there to pull something absolutely magical out the bag. Now, we know he can do that, but why bother? Why not go and do the Nate Diaz thing and then do Dustin? So if I was Team Conor, I would 100%. I agree. Go and fight Nate Diaz first, get back in the win column, get back into the good routine of a good full camp, and then focus on Dustin Poirier. 100% blinkered mixed martial arts. Because even if he fights Dustin next, you better believe someone's in his ear saying, get this win, and we go and fight Pacquiao, make a fortune again. I don't want that. I want him to be 100% focused on the UFC to get the very best out of Conor McGregor again.
There you go, Jack. There's your answer, mate. Should Conor McGregor
but
have
you're
a fight
in. I can tell. You're in.
Of course I'm in.
You want the fight straight away.
Mate, come on, man. You know what business I'm in. Let's go, baby. Let's get back out to Fight Island and make this thing happen. And on that note, it looks like someone's about to weigh in. Please be weighing in. Please be weighing in. Please be weighing in. Yes, here we go. Let's see who this is. Is it Ryan Spann from the co-main event? It's not. It's Jonathan Martinez. Now, quick one before he actually hits these scales. Jonathan Martinez taking on Davy Grant at Bantamweight. Martinez, last time out, weighed in at 140.5. He's obviously had a little bit of a struggle making weight for this. Let's see where he's at.
Official weight 136 pounds for Jonathan Martinez.
Good lad.
Made it.
Good lad.
There you go. Yes, good lad. Looks like he's had a bit of a struggle if you look closely into his eyes, but he's done it. He's got the job done, and he's taking on Davy Grant. This is going to be a great fight. Martinez, he's looked really good in his last two fights, even though there was a weight miss in there as well. Bags and bags and bags of power. The thing is about Davy, we know that his strengths are obviously on the deck, and he would want to turn this into a jiu-jitsu contest rather than a stand and bang. But if you remember when we went to Fight Island, he was actually the first ever fight on Fight Island, wasn't he? On the night that our boy Jorge Masvidal rocked into town to take on Usman. The undercard that night, the first ever fight on Fight Island, involved Davy Grant. And Davy Grant starched his opponent with a killer left hook. So, you know what I mean? He's got hands himself. He might fancy it. I think if he does fancy it, though, with this fella, it might end badly. He wants to get his hands on him and grapple with him, I think.
Yeah, Martinez has got 7 knockouts on his record, 13-3 record. Very much a striker. So Davy Grant really doesn't want to mix it with him. But, you know, Davy Grant now will be aware that this guy has needed to pretty much take the full 2 hours to make weight. And that'll be part of their game plan, or it certainly should be part of Grant's game plan now to go, okay, let's get in there and close the distance and let's put this guy on his back early on. Let's suck what energy levels he's got, because his energy levels will be depleted. You know, he's obviously just gone to the wall there to make weight. So you've got to use that to your advantage. Davy Grant's got to start fast. He's got to pick him up and put him down, and he's got to suck away at that energy and really start tiring Martinez out, because if it has been as tough a weight cut as this late hour weigh-in would suggest, then Martinez, his gas tank is not going to start at full tank. It's going to start on 3/4. And it's up to Davy Grant to burn that gas tank out as soon as possible and take this guy into deep water early on.
It's on the main card. Main card gets underway from 1 a.m. on BT Sport. The prelims from 11 p.m. So make sure you come and join us for that. We're only waiting for Ryan Spann. The reason why we're waiting for him is because he is one half of that co-main event in the light heavyweight division. Misha Serkinov, who's been out for the best part of 18 months. Looking forward to seeing Misha fight again. The number 11 ranked light heavyweight taking on Ryan Spann, the number 13. Spann coming off his first loss in the UFC. So again, it'd be interesting to see how he bounces back. Two grapplers always dish up a top fight, because normally they throw grappling out the window and they end up kickboxing. So fingers crossed that fight is on. Ryan Spann hopefully will hit weight. Who wins out of Adam Catterall and Nicholas Peet? I'm going Nick, early knockout or Catterall on points. What are you talking about, Neil Findlay? That is a ridiculous. Firstly, right, let's address this, yeah? If we're going to make this, what weight are we fighting at? That's the first key issue. What are we signing on the
Catch
door?
weight. Catch weight.
We can't have open... No. There's no open weights. There's no catch weights. We want championship weights, Nicholas. Championship weights. You tell me what you can make. Go on.
Well, as you can see there, the last time I made weight, I made 168 pounds. But that was back in 2008.
No.
Nowhere
Stop
near that.
There you go. That's your fighting weight.
I'm not doing
that's
welterweight.
Your weight.
I cannot do welterweight.
Yeah, there you go. 170. We'll sign for 170, right? I've just got to go to the toilet and get rid of 6 pounds, and we're sorted. And then we're on some. Yeah. Are we signing on? So
I've got to get rid of 50 pounds. That's what you're saying? I've got to get rid of 50 pounds.
You called it.
It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. My love of beer and cheese makes that absolutely impossible in this day and age. So unless you're willing to come up to say, what could I make comfortably? I think I could probably push down to 190 catch weight, maybe 205. I can do 205 easy. It's easy. 205 easy. Sign up for that today.
Mate, I'd have to have weights in my gloves to make 205. There's no chance I can do it. If you can, listen, if we do 185, we'll do it, and I'll try my very best to stay out your way. That's what it is. You're right in what you're saying there, Neil. Nick he's early. That's what it's all about. He's coming in for 5 minutes and he's just trying to take my head off. And there's a good chance that he would be able to do it. After that, he's slowed down, mate. You know what I mean? It's like watching him in slow motion running through treacle. I could stay out of the way and just play on the back foot, lad, and get the job done. Good question, though, mate. I like it. What are your guys' opinions of Glover versus Jan for the belt? Who wins and how? Azim, thank you very much once again getting in contact with the show. What are my opinions on the fight? That's the fight. There's no messing about now. Glover Teixeira is 100% the next in line for the light heavyweight contest. We kind of had, I know it would have been wonderful to have another champ and another narrative of being able to talk about maybe Israel Adesanya going up again and maybe fighting John Jones and all that and celebrating a fantastic win for Izzy. But let's celebrate a fantastic win for Jan Blachowicz. He was brilliant last weekend. His technique got the job done, and he now is well and truly fully established as the main man at light heavyweight. There's a target on his back and everybody wants it. Glover Teixeira has earned a shot at that target. I think it's a brilliant fight. Two guys that can knock each other out. They can grapple each other. God knows where it's going to go in the octagon. For me, it's the fight to make. I'm backing legendary Polish Power just because I think he's hot right now. But who knows, man? Who knows? Stranger things have happened, and we could have a 40-odd-year-old champion in Glover Teixeira.
Yeah, man, he's got all the ability in the world to do it. And who would deny Glover right now as well at this stage in his career? You know, this Indian summer that he's having, this incredible run. He's got no business being the #1 contender in a light heavyweight division full of absolute young, muscle-bound, knockout killers. And we're seeing a couple of them on this card this weekend, of course. It's packed out with guys who are just Adonises. And then there's our boy Glover doing it for us over 40s. You know, he's there rocking it, turning back the clock. I wouldn't absolutely not deny him, a short reign as UFC champion. Lived forever, as a sparring partner of Chuck Liddell back in the day. Had to wait an awful long time to finally make his UFC debut with all kinds of issues. You know, he's a bit of a throwback fighter, that same sprawl and brawl type of style. But as he's proven recently, he's still got the submission game that could match anybody in this light heavyweight division. So, yeah, listen, while I'm like you've got to go with Jan right now because he looks tremendous. I certainly wouldn't begrudge Glover a little reign as champion because his career deserves it. And right now, the stars seem like they're aligned. You know, if it wasn't for Izzy daring to be great, we'd have seen the fight by now. And Glover could even be the champion by now. So it's a cracker, an absolute cracker.
It is. And again, the narratives off the back of it are still wide open because of the amount of talent that is in this 205 division. It's red hot again. It used to be the staple, didn't it? It used to be the division, did light heavyweight. And for a long period of time, it was dominated really by one guy. I know DC came in there and reigned supreme for a period of time, but it was all about John Jones for 10 years. Now, Jan Blachowicz is the guy, but there's a lot of top fights there for him to have, hopefully in the not too distant future. Picture there of Angela Hill from her Twitter feed. This pic represents how much easier it is to make weight when you made it 2 weeks ago. Listen, Angela, you've been on weight for the last 2 years, mate. You're never outside the octagon. Never mind you made it 2 weeks ago. You made it 2 years ago and you just stayed on it because you're consistently active. She's never out the octagon, this kid. And I suppose that's why we love her, you know, because she never turns down a fight. She always says yes. This fight that she's got at the weekend is a rematch, yes, I know, against Ashley Yoder. I don't see too much in it for her, for Angela Hill. But that, again, is testament to her character because she's prepared to take it and prepared to fight. She's a main card fighter and she's topping the prelims.
She loves it. You know, she just loves to fight, doesn't she? That there's no getting away from that fact. And let's not forget, this is a girl that was in the UFC, got cut by the UFC, had to go and prove herself back outside it, then comes back in again. And she's the girl at your phone, isn't she? It's like sending up the bat signal when you've got a problem. Oh my goodness, we need someone to come in. We need someone to save this fight, save this event. Bump, the bat signal goes up, and Angela Hill answers it every single time. And she's loving life. You know, as you see there with the post, this is her happy place. Being in the UFC, competing regularly, this is her happy place. And when she's happy and when she's performing, that's when you see the best out of her as well. So while I'm a big fan of Ashley Yoder, I think some of the stuff she does on social media, if you follow Ashley Yoder, you know, she does incredible underwater training. I don't know who her photographer is, but it's remarkable. And if you've ever seen that famous Muhammad Ali photo, shadowboxing underwater, just check out Ashley Yoder's social media and Instagram. Her pictures are magnificent of her lifting weights and running underwater, doing all that kind of stuff. So I love both these girls. And I'm glad they're throwing down. And you know what? If they fight each other another 3 times as well, the first one was great. And I think the second one's going to be good too.
Yeah, and they've most certainly developed their game since that first one, so expect an even better fight than the first fight. Does Khabib fight again? If not, who is the lightweight champ January 2022? Mason, right? You know that he's the commissioner of the lightweight tournament, right? You know this, Mason.
Thank you.
So why are you teeing him up now just to sound off about the current Khabib situation? Mason, I love that you're involved with the program, right? But now this is just going to be a rant for 5 minutes, isn't it? Go on, Nick. Go on. Say what you've got to say. Answer Mason's question.
To answer your question, he will not fight again this year. He is retired. Let's let him stay retired for now because we haven't got a standout champion or a standout contender, Mason, which is why we need the lightweight tournament to come into full effect. We've seen opening rounds, quarterfinals, if you like. There is a perfect setup now for semi-finals, but then the golden goose, of course, the ace in the pack, Conor McGregor, wants to stay in the mix. And if Conor McGregor wants to stay in the mix with the amount of eyeballs he generates and with the amount of attention he brings to the sport of mixed martial arts, if we need to back out of the bracket and go back to a quarter-final stage and bring in 8 of the best lightweights in the world,
Stop
that looks
it.
like that might be what we do. That looks like that's what we might do. But to answer your question specifically, Mason, we both started the year. Yeah, exactly. We back it up. Bring the money back in.
I feel like Homer Simpson, man, in that bush.
To answer Mason's question, no, we started the year and we said the guy at the moment who looks red hot on the back of a Tony Ferguson win was Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira looks like he's the guy that is now peaking and looks like the person who will end 2021 with a 155-pound belt wrapped around his waist. However, since then, we have seen Dustin Poirier dust Conor McGregor, smoking. So that changed everybody's mind again, because now Dustin feels like the champion without the belt. Dustin feels like the guy who should have the belt round his waist, and for me, should fight for it next. And I think there's two options. He should fight Charles Oliveira, or he should fight Michael Chandler. Crown a new champion, and then we go from there. However, again, we come back to the one guy that changes all best laid plans in the UFC, because he's the biggest star the sport's ever seen, and his name's Conor McGregor. And if Conor McGregor wants to dance with Dustin again, it looks like that's what we're going to get. But I'm not a fan of throwing the belt at it. I'll leave the belt with Khabib, leave it vacant. If that needs to play out next, let that play out, and then the winner will go into a vacant title shot against, maybe we do Chandler versus Oliveira on the other side for a final eliminator. I wouldn't be against that at all.
Chandler Gaethje, man. Deal me in for Chandler Gaethje as well. Listen,
sign me up.
Again, off the back of the Fight Island performance from Michael Chandler, he was absolutely brilliant that night. He made one of the best UFC debuts that I've personally ever seen, and he rammed my original thoughts right back down my throat, didn't he? He was absolutely sensational. I also liked this week, I don't know whether it was a call out or whether he was just being nice and sound, but he was mentioning Dustin Poirier's name via his hot sauce on his social media. So I think he was driving his kids like little scooter bike or something like that and drinking the Dustin Poirier hot sauce as he was driving along his driveway. And I thought, if that's a call out, that's a clever call out. I like it, man. And I'm all down for that fight. I know that Dustin Poirier, in the immediate aftermath of the fight with Conor, said, listen, Chandler's only been here 2 minutes in the UFC. He's got to do a little bit more in order to get himself back in contention for a UFC title shot, even though he's got a phenomenal body of work elsewhere. As a fight, as a matchup, Chandler Poirier stinks, doesn't it? It stinks of beauty. Let's just do the fight, man. It smells really, really good. But I would say Chandler Gaethje. Yeah? Are you with me? Chandler Gaethje?
Yep.
Yeah, you're nodding that one. That's good. And I personally, seeing as that you've just told Conor to go and fight Nate Diaz, Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira for the title. Let's go. There you go.
Bingo. There you go.
Yin?
Done.
There you go.
Easy.
There you go.
That's how easy it is.
Yeah. No, it's not easy, mate, because when you mention Conor McGregor's name, there's an extra couple of zeros on the back of it. So it ain't easy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It ain't easy. So I've no doubt Dustin's like going, yeah, go on then. I think I might do. I think I might have a little bit of a dance here, because he most certainly is next in line for a UFC title shot. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out. Like you say, let's just get the fights. Let's just get the fights that the fans want, and it'll play out in the end, no doubt. We are still waiting for Ryan Spann. There's a little bit of activity over there at the Apex. He's got 3 minutes to hit these scales as Ryan Spann. Everybody else has weighed in. Nobody's missed weight as of yet. Leon Edwards came in at 170.5. Belal Muhammad came in at championship weight at 170. The main event is on. We're just waiting for the co-main event to be signed off, with Ryan Spann taking on Misha Serkinov. Serkinov weighed in a little earlier on at 206. Who's your pick for fight of the night this weekend? That's Sam in the YouTube comments. Thank you so much for this, Sam. I'll go first on this because I've highlighted a couple. I mentioned the Charles Jourdain and Marcelo Rojo fight. Rocco's on his UFC debut.
Scale, Ryan Spann.
I'll come back to this in a minute because this is big. So let's see if Ryan Spann, because this could be a fight of the night if Ryan Spann is on the money. He's got the towel. He's got the towel there, so he's wiping down. He's obviously been in the sauna blasting it out. So let's see where Ryan Spann's at. Got the Superman emblem on his chest as always. Oh,
not happy.
Towel time.
You can't take that Superman emblem off, by the way. That's a tattoo.
Can you not?
So, no, you can't take that off. No, it's, yeah.
All right. I thought it was one of them transfers. Yeah. Like, no, my kids get them, you know, like from the magazines and stuff. They just get them and they come off like, that's real, that, is it? Here we go. Come on, Ryan, lad. Don't let us down. Looks like it's a struggle here, pal. Last one on the scales. He's got 1 minute. Here we go. It's not looking good.
No.
He's missed it by half.
Oh, he's missed it by half.
For Ryan Spann.
There you go. Missed it by a half. And he's run out of time, so he won't be able to go and burn that extra half off. But it's done. Ryan Spann, the only one to be missing weight, 206.5. Had to hit 206. Everybody else on the money. Leon Edwards on the money. Belal Muhammad on the money. All the Brits on the money as well. Well done to all those getting the job done. He looks dejected. You would be dejected off 0.5.
Well, he's obviously come straight from the sauna, so you know his mental state will be all over the place. He's obviously had a terrible weight cut, and to miss it by 0.5, you know, you think, well, why have I done all that work? I may as well have missed it 2 hours ago by a pound or whatever it may have been. It still cost me 20%. So he spent the last 2 hours working, slaving away in hot conditions to lose weight, and still failed to make weight. So, you know, he won't be a pleasant guy to be around for the next few hours, certainly until he gets rehydrated. And meanwhile, Misha Serkinov's back in his hotel room, fully hydrated, having a little chuckle now, because very similar to Davy Grant's tactics, his tactics should change as well. He should come out flying here, and he knows already, he's already had a little bit of a bonus because he'll take 20% of Ryan Spann's wages.
Going back to that, I think it was from Ben on our YouTube channel. Obviously, the guys at the Apex are just currently getting the stage ready for the face-off. So we'll try our best to stay with this so you can see Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad face off. I'm sure that the fans want to see that. So do stick with us. We're not going to go anywhere as of yet, even though our time is up. We'll try our best to stay with it. Should they be out in the next 5-10 minutes or so. But on the prelims, Nick, I've gone with Charles Jourdain against Marcelo Rocco. I know it's Rocco's UFC debut. He hasn't seen the judges since his 5th pro fight back in 2012. I know that Jourdain has lost his last 2, but he is a banger. I've just got a funny feeling that might have a bonus attached to it. What are you picking off the prelims first, mate?
Off the prelims, I'm excited to see Haqparast versus Garcia. I love guys that are undefeated and come in the UFC at late notice. He's a champion elsewhere. As I say, defended that Combate Americas belt a couple of times as well. So he'll be looking to make a huge impact. And, you know, Haqparast, for me, completely legit. Anyone can get caught by Drew Dober and get knocked out. So for me, that's the one. So it may not be fight of the night, but I think we could get performance of the night from that one.
The fight for me... Oh, there's some... Do you know something? The more you study this card and the more that you appreciate the people that are on this card, you look at it and you think, that could be a fight of the night, that could be a fight of the night, and that could be a fight of the night. There's 3 comfortably on the main card, not including the main event, that could be fight of the night. I'm going to go, because I'm only going to allow you to pick one, right? So I'm going to go Dan Ige against Gavin Tucker. Reason is that Ige's... Have I just picked yours? I apologise. He's never in a bad fight. His last 2 against Keita and Barboza, I know he won one, lost one. He was brilliant in those fights. They were both super entertaining. And Tucker hasn't lost since 2017. It's a last-minute opponent. It's an opportunity for Tucker to really make a bit of a name for himself in this division. I think that could be the one on this main card that catches the majority of people's attention. Go on, what else are you looking at? I'm sorry for nicking yours. What else are you looking at?
Yeah, that was the one I was going to go for. Listen, I'm not going to go for either the Brits either because, you know, fingers crossed They both have comfortable performances and performances of the night rather than fight of the night, even though they're both in an absolute cracking matchups there. So I'm going to go with the co-main events because for obvious reasons, again, I want Leon to win and win in style. So I'm going to go with Misha Serkinov and the guy we've just waited around 2 hours to see. Ryan Spann. Loads on the line here. Both guys are absolutely super talented. Both got bags of power. Serkinov, of course, looked like a world beater at one stage and then suddenly hit a patch where he loses against, some of the top guys in this weight division. And likewise, Ryan Spann, so much momentum going into the Contender Series. He loses in the Contender Series finale, which was a massive shock. Then he goes on this absolute tear of first round knockouts when he does get into the UFC and looked absolutely phenomenal until he lost to Johnny Walker last time out. So I'm looking for a reaction from Ryan Spann once he gets rehydrated. And I'm looking for Misha Serkinov to step up to the plate. So yeah, I'm going to go with the co-main event for Fight of the Night.
Do you think he'll have that Superman emblem on his chest, Ryan Spann, tomorrow night?
He might just put it on his shoulder or something. If it's anything like my tattoos, the old body weight's pulled it down over the years anyway. So.
Of course, we are well-to-well tomorrow on ESPN Plus. First fight at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific. We start things in the welterweight division. Jason Witt takes on Matthew Semmelsberger.
We're going to stick through it. We're going to stick through this feed because we want to see, obviously, Rocky and Belal look into each other's eyes. They're normally extremely quick with these stare downs. Good little bang of this. 4-fight win streak for Semmelsberger. He's a stand and bang artist. Witt lost, like I said, last June in 48 seconds.
Up next, we're in the women's strawweight division. Jin Yu Fry takes on Gloria DePaula.
DePaula is the one to keep an eye on.
She's tiny.
Former Invicta atomweight champion. Yes, she is indeed. I mean, that's a hell of a size difference. And Gloria DePaula, 3 knockouts in her 5 victories. She's a banger. This could be a belter.
Up next, we're in the women's flyweight division. J.J. Aldrich takes on Courtney Casey.
Even matchup. It's all about output, this. Who's got the most output? Who's the most active? Who's going to be pushing the pace? Both of them very, very good on the feet.
A lightweight matchup is next. Rafa Garcia takes on Nasrat Hakparast.
Have we lost the feed? Is the feed gone? No, the feed's back. I just thought we just wanted to look at you, mate, whilst these two guys were staring down. It is.
I think we've had a few messages. Yeah, this is my one to watch. Hakparast versus Garcia.
Rodriguez takes on Ronnie.
I think we got a quick headshot of me there. I think we had a few requests from housewives to get me a close up of Nick, so appeases the girls at home.
Well, you know what I mean. You are the talent. That's why you're here, mate. You know what I mean. You've got to give the people what they want.
Ronnie Yaya, come on, 20 years mixed martial arts, unbelievable. To still be doing it this level after 2 decades of competition.
Takes on Charles Jourdain.
This is my tip for fight of the night in the featherweight division. Yeah. Jourdain, like I said, lost his last 2, but he is a bit of a banger. And Rojo, he has not seen the judges since 2012. Go on, get in his face, son. Let him know. Look into them eyes. He's giving him the chat. He's giving him the chat on his UFC debut. That's what we want.
And in our featured prelim on ESPN Plus, Ashley Yoder takes on Angela Hill.
It's a rematch. Hill won the first one. Both have developed their game most certainly since. Angela Hill fights every single weight, always on weight. This will be a good one.
Could be a different fight. Rematches are so often swing the other way. And I think that's why Yoda jumped at this opportunity.
Plus, a middleweight bout starts us off. Darren Stewart takes on Eric Anders.
Big fight for Darren. Big fight.
This could, depending how these two approach this could be the one. This could be the one taking some serious dough on.
Yeah.
Look at the shape. Look at the shape of these kids. Woof. They don't skip leg day, either of them.
Up next in a flyweight matchup, Mateus Nicolau takes on Manel Kape.
Big one for Manel
because
he lost. He lost that debut against Pantoja, but this is a big one against Nicolau. He's got it, and he's taking it last minute. He obviously fancies it. He obviously fancies himself as well to take it last minute. So fair play to him. Let's see what he's all about tomorrow night.
Yeah, a lot of criticism, didn't he, after his first fight? Just not doing
Up
enough,
next in a bantamweight
trying to backride his way to a
Davey
victory.
Grant takes
He wants to
on
put that one behind him,
Jonathan
clearly.
Martinez.
Yeah. Now here you go. This is your classic power puncher against grappler. Styles make fights. How's it going to play out?
Davey's always game, isn't he? Davey Grant. You know, again, it's such a shame.
Two games sometimes.
Yeah. It's such a shame we just don't see him fight more often, you know, because if he was a lot more active, we'd talk about him a lot more. And I think he could really have a push.
Takes on the 9th-ranked Dan Ige.
There you go. Another fight that was thrown together last minute. It was supposed to be Ryan Hall. He dropped out.
Yeah.
And Gavin Tucker, the hot prospect in this division, stepped up to make sure that this fight went ahead. Ige versus Tucker in the featherweight division. Belter.
Ige's the ranked guy as well, so there's a lot of pressure on him here. And I'll tell you what, you prepare an all camp to face Ryan Hall, and then they throw you in with a mad dog like Tucker. Completely different game plan, completely different fighting style. You know, you spend all camp trying to just stuff takedowns, and then suddenly you're in with Tucker who just wants to stand and bang with you. You need to take him down. It's going to be fun.
Interesting that Span's not looking him in the face.
Yeah. He still doesn't, you know, he's still suffering from all that, you know, weight cutting, I'm sure.
Yeah, he doesn't look weird, does he? He doesn't look happy at all.
Main event, at welterweight, 5 rounds possible between 13th ranked Belal Muhammad and the 3rd ranked Leon Edwards.
There you go. This is what we're all here for, the main event. He's been out the octagon for 603 days. Leon Edwards, the number 3 ranked welterweight, taking on the number 13 ranked Belal Muhammad. He is pumped. He's up for it. He's ready to rock and roll.
They both are.
But as
Belal knows this is a big opportunity, doesn't he?
5 rounds.
Both
innings.
Leon Rocky Edwards and Belal, remember the name Muhammad.
Little bit. I like it.
Thanks for coming out, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night on ESPN Plus.
Well, you won't see us on ESPN Plus. You'll see us on BT Sport. That's where you've got to come and join us, because Leon Edwards has been out the octagon for 603 days. You've been waiting. We've been waiting. The amount of interviews that we've done with him over that period of time has been ridiculous. But now we are here. We are literally just over 24 hours away from him making that walk in, shutting that cage door and going to work, taking on the number 13 ranked welterweight in this division, a man that stepped up last minute off the back of Khamzat Chimaev and his health problems that he's currently suffering off the back of his COVID positive tests. Belal Muhammad is the man that put his hand up. He's fighting Rocky Edwards, and we've heard from Dana White. It's big, Nick. We've heard from Dana White. If Rocky puts in a performance to capture the imagination of not only Dana White, but the fans over in the States as well, he will be fighting for UFC gold next.
Listen, unless my childhood lied to me, whenever Rocky's back's against the wall, he gets up and he performs. So come on, Rocky Edwards. Let's get that big win and let's secure the title shot this year.
Come and join us from 11 p.m. for the prelims. Action-packed card from start to finish. The main card gets underway from 1 a.m. in the morning, kicking off with a fellow Brit in Darren Stewart taking on Eric Anders, which could be an absolute firecracker in the middleweight division. Of course, you can see Davey Grant's name on there as well, taking on Jonathan Martinez, who struggled. It took him a good hour and 45 minutes to hit the 136 pounds that he needed to do, but he managed to do it to Jonathan Martinez. But how much did that take out of the banger himself? We'll find out tomorrow night when Davey Grant throws down with him. Dan Ige in that last-minute matchup taking on Gavin Tucker. You've also got Misha Serkinov and Ryan Spann, who didn't look well there, the only man to miss weight today, coming in 0.5 over the 206 limit in the light heavyweight division. And then that main event in the welterweight division, the number 3 ranked Leon Edwards taking on the number 13 ranked Belal Muhammad. We have waited nearly 2 years to see Rocky back in the octagon. The wait is over. Come and join us from 11 p.m. for the prelim start, 1 a.m. for that main card on BT Sport.
Leon, my son, you've come so far. Growing up, danger lurked around every corner. A new start, a new home, but death can be hard. A fatherless boy with something to prove. Lost, not knowing where to turn. But light can be found in the darkest of places. out of the streets and into the cage. A new focus, a new beginning. With every win you grow stronger. This is your time. This is your stage. Fighting for your family, for your island of birth, for the island you've made home. Fighting to be the best in the world.